вищі навчальні заклади, а також у нас є партнери, центри, які є сертифіковані, приймають кембриджські іспити. Отже, ми готові розпочати. 15 година в Києві, сонячний день, все ще літо, але багато хто з вас вже приступив до роботи, закінчилися відпустки, наближається новий навчальний рік, в нашому словниковому запасі з'явилися нові фрази, одна з яких це «the new normal». Ми всі, коли переходили раптово за одну ніч на дистанційне навчання, все ж таки сподівалися, що ось цей період закінчиться, пройде літо і ми повернемося в свій звичний режим, але життя внесло свої корективи, і наразі ніхто достеменно не знає, як буде виглядати навчання у цьому 2020-2021 навчальному році. Чи буде це звичайне для нас навчання в класі за партами, чи знову ми не вийдемо 1 вересня, або не всі вийдуть 1 вересня і будемо вчитися дистанційно та онлайн, або це буде якийсь сценарій гібридного навчання, де частина буде відбуватися в класі, а частина все ж таки дистанційно. Але ми готові, і ми готові найближчі 2 дні, сьогодні і завтра, на онлайн-конференції ділитися практичними ідеями для будь-якого сценарію. Ми є присутні майже в кожному куточку нашої країни. Наші методисти-представники є в Києві, Харкові та Львові. Наші контакти, як з нами зв'язатися, можна знайти на сайті macmillan.ukraine.com в розділі «Представники в Україні». На цьому ж сайті є вкладка, де можна придбати, і тут є контакти абсолютно всіх тих закладів, тих людей, які мають право, офіційне право продавати підручники видавництва Macmillan. У нас на сайті є окремо створений розділ «Дистанційне навчання», в який ви можете завітати і завантажити, і скористатися у своїй роботі абсолютно безкоштовно цілою низкою ресурсів. І ми знаємо, що багато хто з вчителів протягом ось тих 2,5 місяців скористався такою можливістю. Понад 5 тисяч вчителів звернулися до нас протягом 2,5 місяців карантину з проханням надати цифрові матеріали для роботи у дистанційному форматі, і ми надали такі інтерактивні матеріали до підручників Academy Stars, All Clear, Gateway, Optimize, Get 200. Крім того, у нас для тих вчителів, чиї учні займаються за підручниками нашого видавництва, є розробленою партнерська програма. Серед послуг, які отримують вчителі та учні, можливість пройти онлайн-тестування, пробний тест у форматі ЗНО. Цього року ми прийняли таке рішення і відкрили цей тест для абсолютно всіх бажаючих, незважаючи на те, чи працюють вони з нашими підручниками чи ні. І понад 30 тисяч учнів скористалися такою можливістю і пройшли це онлайн-тестування, цей пробний тест. Наші вчителі шкіл-партнерів змогли пройти зі своїми учнями, провести семестрові контрольні роботи, які перевіряються автоматично. І це було величезною допомогою за їхніми відгуками, що не треба було в цьому стихійно-дистанційному режимі придумувати, як провести семестрові контролі, які у нас є обов'язковими наприкінці семестру, а просто учні в своєму режимі виконували ці роботи, і вчителеві приходили одразу готові перевірені результати. Мій виступ буде стосуватися переважно тих наших нормативних документів, якими ми керуватимемося в цьому навчальному році. Перший з них ви бачите на екранах. Він переважно стосується все ж таки директорів та заступників директорів шкіл. Але в цьому документі від 5 серпня є один абзац, який стосується вчителів-предметників усіх предметів, зокрема і англійської мови. І тут говориться про те, що міністерство рекомендує, дуже сильно рекомендує виявити той рівень опанування навчального матеріалу, виявити рівень опанування того навчального матеріалу, який викладався під час карантину дистанційно в різних формах. Після цього визначити необхідність організації повторення, спланувати це повторення і створити і зробити з учнями диференційовані навчальні завдання. А це документ, яким ми, власне, з вами і керуємося, це методичні рекомендації. Я думаю, що всі, хто працює у школах, вже встигли принаймні побачити цей документ. Він від 11 серпня, тобто новенький-новенький. І в ньому кілька разів повторюється ось ця ідея, що спочатку, коли ми прийдемо до школи, треба продіагностувати наших учнів, провести діагностичні роботи, потім спланувати і запровадити коригуюче навчання для того, щоб повторити пройдений за минулий рік матеріал, і особливу увагу звернути на той матеріал, який викладався під час карантину. Скажу чесно, ми не чекали, ми сподівалися, що такі вказівки будуть, але ми не чекали, коли вони офіційно будуть оприлюднені, і ми влітку готувалися. І наш головний офіс в Лондоні провів онлайн-опитування ще в червні місяці серед майже 3000 вчителів, і серед цих вчителів було чимало вчителів із України. І всі вчителі говорили про речі, які були типовими. Вони не побоювалися, неправильне слово, вони говорили про ті проблемні сфери, з якими вони передбачають, що стикнуться на початку навчального року. І ці 4 сфери ви бачите зараз на екрані на слайді. Перше – це ось та сама діагностика прогалин. Друге, матеріали і методики, і прийоми, чим заповнити ці прогалини. Ще одна річ, про яку говорили вчителі, яких опитали, що вони відчули, що в їхніх учнів бракує ось цього learner independence. І також вчителі говорили про те, наскільки важлива їм підтримка з боку представників видавництв, і, зокрема, видавництва Macmillan. Тому ми розробили, ми як представництво видавництва в Україні розробили так звану дорожню карту початку нового навчального року, з якою я хочу вас познайомити. І сподіваюся, те, що ми розробили, стане дійсно величезною допомогою повернення до більш-менш звичного нам режиму роботи в школі. Отже, перше – це діагностика прогалин у знаннях. Як нам виявити ці прогалини, за допомогою яких інструментів? До кожного підручника видавництва Macmillan, який має гриф міністерства і є в переліку рекомендованої літератури і в цьому році також, нашими спеціалістами розроблені діагностичні тести, діагностичні роботи з автоматизованою перевіркою до абсолютно кожного рівня кожного підручника. Вони доступні кожному вчителю та учню школи, який працює в цьому навчальному році або планує працювати в цьому навчальному році за підручниками нашого видавництва. Яким чином отримати доступ до цих автоматизованих діагностичних робіт? вам надійде лист з пропозицією заповнити заявку, і після отримання заявки вам та вашим учням буде відкрито доступ, але ще раз хочу наголосити, це доступно тим, хто працює з підручниками Macmillan. Тому, якщо ви вже працюєте, у вас є гарна новина, вам не треба придумувати, як продіагностувати ваших учнів. Якщо ви ще не визначилися з підручниками на цей навчальний рік, можливо, це стане одним з аргументів в пользу саме підручників нашого видавництва. Це ще одна цитата з того ж самого документу, але вже на іншій сторінці. Це частина рекомендацій, яка стосується саме початкової школи. І тут знову міністерство рекомендує провести вхідне оцінювання учнів з метою визначення рівня їхніх досягнень за попередній рік. Ще раз повторюсь, якщо ваш вибір це видавництво Macmillan, у вас є все для того, щоб безболісно і легко і автоматизовано провести цю вхідну діагностику. Другий крок у цій дорожній карті – це коригуюче навчання. Тобто ми провели діагностику, ми виявили прогалини в знаннях, і тепер нам треба чимось їх заповнити. Де взяти ці матеріали? Що це мають бути за матеріали? Звичайно, можна самостійно сидіти і готувати ці матеріали, але це величезний шмат роботи, який забере у вас дуже багато часу. Гарна новина полягає в тому, що знов-таки в наших підручниках все продумано, і продумано в двох аспектах. Перший аспект – в будь-якому курсі, будь-то початкова школа чи середня школа, підручник починається з Welcome Unit, де є ціла низка уроків, які спеціально розроблені для того, щоб заповнити або поновити знання, які були отримані у попередньому класі. Ви бачите, в початковій школі цей розділ має назву Welcome Unit, а у середній школі цей розділ має назву Starter Unit. Так виглядає, наприклад, одна з сторінок, один з уроків цього стартер-юніта підручника Academy Stars. Ви бачите, що це скріншот цифрової інтерактивної версії цього підручника, а це означає, що навіть якщо у вас не буде змоги повернутися до викладання в класі, все одно у вас є матеріал, з яким ви можете з учнями працювати, адже підручник є і інтерактивним. Цифровим. Це один з уроків курсу All Clear, і це приклад одного з уроків Starter Юніту підручника Gateway, в даному випадку це рівень B2, A2, вибачте. Крім того, окрім цих welcome юнітів, які вже закладені як ідея підручника, є ще одна річ, яка закладена в усі наші підручники. У кожного вчителя в книзі для вчителя є код, який серед всього іншого дає доступ до ресурсного центру. І ось в цих ресурсних центрах до всіх наших підручників є розроблені завдання на повторення лексики, граматики, фонетики, якщо це початкова школа, а також є спеціально розроблені завдання study skills, і це вже я трошечки йду до learners autonomy, але все ж таки це стосується і коригуючого навчання, адже прогалини в знаннях або те, що варто повторити, вони стосуються не тільки лексики і граматики, а й певних умінь. Умінь читати різні типи текстів, умінь сприймати на слух різні типи текстів, умінь писати різні речі. То ось завдання, які допоможуть учням поновити в своїй пам'яті всі ці речі, вони є у вигляді Study Skills Worksheets і доступні вчителям у їхніх ресурсних центрах. Тобто є абсолютно все готове для того, щоб заповнювати прогалини і повторювати пройдений матеріал. Третій крок – це те, що турбує, напевно, сьогодні і вчителів, і учнів, і батьків. Ми підемо до школи за парти, ми будемо продовжувати навчатися через Zoom або через Google Classroom, або це буде якась варіація змішаного навчання, частина в класі, частина самостійно. І як ми це будемо робити? У нас готове рішення до будь-якого сценарію розвитку подій. Для учнів у всіх наших підручників, які рекомендовані міністерством, є друковані підручники і друковані робочі зошити, з якими ви працюєте в класі, працюєте вдома. У підручників учнів є електронні версії цих книжок, є інтерактивні цифрові підручники, є онлайн-практика або онлайн-робочий зошит для того, щоб самостійно виконувати завдання вчителя, для того, щоб система перевіряла правильність виконання завдань, а вчитель отримував вже готовий звіт про виконані завдання, вже перевірений. Що є у вчителя для будь-якого сценарію? Все те, що є у учня. А крім того, у вчителя є те, що має у нас назву Classroom Presentation Kit. Це інтерактивна версія підручників та робочих зошитів для того, щоб проводити онлайн-уроки. Там вбудоване аудіо, вбудоване відео і вбудовані спеціальні інструменти, з якими ми знайомимо у своїх відео. Трошечки згодом я покажу вам ці інструменти. У вчителя також є доступ до онлайн-практики і онлайн-робочих зошитів їхніх учнів, проте там трошечки інший функціонал, там є безліч додаткових функцій, які недоступні учням, а доступні лише вчителю. Зокрема, вчитель може побачити першу спробу виконання вправи, може побачити останню спробу, може побачити, скільки часу учень провів, виконуючи ту чи іншу вправу і так далі. У вчителя є генератор тестів, і це також доступно до всіх наших підручників, де є не тільки готові вже перевірочні роботи, а є можливість створювати майже безкінечну кількість своїх власних перевірочних робіт із заготовок. Тест створено, збережено, відправлено учням, учні виконали, повернули вчителеві назад. І у вчителя, як я вже говорила перед цим, є ресурсні центри, де є готові додатково розроблені завдання, а також поради. Всі вчителі, хто працює з нашими підручниками, відмічають, що який би підручник видавництва ви не взяли, він є teacher-friendly і він є learner-friendly. Чому teacher-friendly? Дуже легкі у плануванні, дуже мало часу іде у вчителів на те, щоб підготуватися до уроку, і вони особливо це оцінили під час саме дистанційного навчання, коли дуже швидко їм вдавалося завдяки саме нашим підручникам підготувати онлайн-урок. І ще вчителі відмічають, що матеріалів більш ніж достатньо, що не треба більше нічого шукати для того, щоб доповнити підручник, що знов-таки економить час вчителя. Що стосується учнів, то підручники є learner-friendly в першу чергу через те, що за змістом вони цікаві і релевантні кожній віковій групі, через те, що в них є розумна складність. Завдання не є дуже легкими і не є дуже складними, а це означає, що учням цікаво здобувати знання. І, звичайно, цифрові ресурси, які супроводжують всі наші підручники. Отже, ми готові до будь-якого сценарію через те, що у нас ідеальне поєднання всього того, що на сьогоднішній день вимагає та ситуація, в якій опинилися всі і не тільки в Україні. Всі наші цифрові підручники знаходяться на одній платформі, яка має назву Macmillan Education Everywhere. Процедура, вона за літо трошечки змінила свій зовнішній вигляд і спростилась процедура реєстрації. Це займає ще менше часу, менше 2 хвилин. Всі підручники, які активовані, знаходяться в одному місці на відстані одного кліку мишею. І це також, виявляється, не іде в розріз з рекомендаціями міністерства. Подивіться, будь ласка, я виділила і підкреслила, що міністерство рекомендує під час вибору на початку навчального року НМК для вивчення предмета передбачити можливості використання засобів та інструментарію дистанційного навчання. Тобто підручник, який ви обираєте на навчальний рік, в нього має бути закладена така можливість і такі інструменти, щоб ви могли працювати як у класі, так і дистанційно. І все це є у нас, і нагадаю, на відстані одного кліку мишею. І нарешті четверта зупинка на дорожній карті – це підтримка, яка так необхідна всім і вчителям особливо. До всіх наших курсів є календарно-тематичне планування, і я хочу наголосити, що воно є абсолютно безкоштовним, воно завантажується з нашого сайту, не потрібні ніякі спеціальні коди і паролі, все у відкритому доступі. Це календарно-тематичне планування у форматі Word, а це означає, що за потреби ви можете відредагувати, готові календарні плани і привести їх у відповідність до потреб конкретно вашого навчального закладу. У нас стартує, починаючи з сьогоднішнього дня, ціла серія вебінарів як для України, так і міжнародних, де наші міжнародні спікери, міжнародні тренери будуть ділитися досвідом і порадами, і практичними ідеями, як працювати у нових умовах. Ми в Україні, наші методисти проводять зумінари, тобто зустрічі у Зумі, локальні, де ми спілкуємося з вчителями і знов-таки ділимося практичними порадами та ідеями. Ми проводимо консультації в будь-якому зручному для вчителя форматі. У нас є записані і знаходяться вони знов-таки у відкритому доступі відеоінструкції по активації кодів, по роботі з цифровими ресурсами, по роботі з онлайн-робочими зошитами. Воно все є. Ці відеоінструкції прості, короткі і зрозумілі. І також на нашому каналі YouTube Macmillan Ukraine є приклади відеоуроків до деяких наших курсів, які ви також можете подивитися і взяти звідти певні ідеї. Нагадую, календарно-тематичне планування безкоштовне у вільному доступі на нашому сайті. Його можна знайти або у розділі викладачам, там є така вкладка календарно-тематичне планування, або у каталозі, якщо ви заходите на сторінку певного підручника, то ви бачите вкладки «Переглянути зразок» і наступна вкладка «Календарно-тематичне планування». Також на сторінці підручника ви зможете знайти і завантажити грифи Міністерства освіти. Є вкладка «Ресурси», де зібрані всі ресурси до конкретного підручника. І є вкладка «Вебінар», щоб ви довго не шукали тему, яку вам потрібно, то тут же в цій вкладці зібрані ті вебінари, які проводилися саме з опорою на цей підручник. І я хочу нагадати, знов-таки повертаючись до календарно-тематичного планування, що, як і в усі попередні роки, в цьому році в інструктивно-методичних рекомендаціях виділено і наголошено, що календарно-тематичне та поурочне планування здійснюється вчителем у довільній формі. Тобто ніхто не може вимагати від вас певного формату календарного плану. Ми пропонуємо свій формат. Вчителі, які користуються нашими календарно-тематичними планами, у захваті, бо вони дуже зручні, але це не означає, що це єдиний можливий формат. І я з превеличезним задоволенням надаю слово нашому сьогоднішньому спікеру, нашому другові Гоші Мроз. We are going to spend the rest of today's online conference with Gosha, and the first part of her talking time is going to be about primary grades. She will be basing her presentation on Academy Stars by Macmillan. Gosha, I'm really pleased to give you the floor. Gosha is here, and I do hope that she hears me. And she is going to talk about teaching grammar. Yeah, we do hear you, Gosha. Hello, the floor is yours. We're waiting for your ideas.
Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here again. I almost feel sometimes as if we worked in, one big school, one big global school, which is basically what's happening now. So today we're going to talk about grammar, which we love, don't we? Our students love it, right? Everyone loves grammar. I personally do. But some people would consider it controversial. Some people some students are a little bit scared of that. And I'm going to show you some tricks and some ideas on how to, use the videos and how to teach grammar. And we're going to be talking about, this sort of mixed reality. So, like the fact that we still don't know whether we're going to be teaching face to face or online. So let me start. And imagine you wake up in the morning and you set up your alarm clock, it goes off, so you turn it off, you drink coffee or tea, I don't know, whatever you drink in the morning, and you're preparing your breakfast, ready to kick off, ready to start another day teaching. And then you realize, because it's 2020, you realize there's one catch here. You realize that actually you're not going to go to school, you're not going to go to your classroom, you're not going to high five your students, but you're going to sit in front of your computer, most probably at home, and you're going to teach from the front of your screen, and your students are going to be in front of the screen, their screens too, because this year is absolutely full of surprises and we don't know. And it might happen that we will at some point teach face to face. It might happen that we'll start teaching face to face and then switch to online again because of the pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen. So basically when I think about it, when I thought about it at the beginning, this is what I looked like. I looked like a scared dog, and I had so many questions about it, and I was thinking about whether the lessons will be held online or maybe not, or maybe 50-50, maybe blended learning, or if we start the lessons face to face, maybe we'll have to switch on to online after 1 week or 1 month, or or maybe after, I don't know, 3 weeks or half a year. We don't know it, and we're not going to know. Or, other questions. Will my students actually learn anything if we're in front of our computers? Because we are used to, especially when we talk about young learners, we are used to, running around, and we are used to, playing with them. And it's slightly different. It is different in the online environment. And we also think like, will we ever get back to schools? Because maybe, I don't know, maybe at some point the government, or I don't know, some health organizations will decide that teaching online is going to stay with us forever because it has a lot of advantages too. So maybe we should just stick to that so we're never surprised. Or maybe like you're thinking, do I actually have enough resources? Do I have to prepare presentations? How do I show things in my book? And do I have enough? Because, we tend to have a lot of handouts, a lot of toys. Do I have all these things online? And there are so many questions that, I don't know about you, but at the beginning they made me panic a little bit. I was so anxious because this is a difficult situation for everyone. But I encourage you to worry not, because there are a couple of things that we should remember about, even in these very uncertain times that bring us a lot of questions and a lot of fears and worries. And the first thing I remind myself, and I would like you to remember, is that kids usually know how to deal with computers. They know how to use programs. Even very small kids, they're a different generation. They're digital natives. There's actually a term for that, digital natives, which means that they have been surrounded with technology since the day they were born. And, actually you give them a printed picture, and what some kids do, and I've seen it with my own eyes, is they're trying to zoom in. It's a piece of paper, but, they're so used to it, right? Which is good. That helps us with giving online lessons because I'm not saying that all of them, but the vast majority of them will know which button to click and how to log in and so on and so forth. And with a little bit of support from their parents, they should have no problems with that. Now, another thing that is worth remembering is that if you use good books, they provide you with a large number of digital resources. And this is something that is very important to me as a teacher. And most of my time I actually spend teaching. And I'm a very active teacher. I teach a lot of classes because it's my passion, but also because I know how to deal with it due to the fact that I do have a lot of resources and I do have this and that. And at the beginning, you might be worried, but what about flashcards? What about all these games? You have them online because they come with books. And if you use good books, they should come with the books. You should get the access to digital versions of whatever you use in your classroom. And another thing is that I don't know if all of you will agree with me, but I strongly believe that if you can teach something face to face, you can also teach it online. And one of my friends is now learning flamenco online. She's just, connecting with her teacher online, and, she stands a little bit back, like to the back, and she follows the steps. And who would have thought dancing online? How is that even possible? But it is. So it's good news. I believe we can do a lot of things online, and we should not be scared of that. We should just accept it as our new reality, and we should just learn how to deal with it. And at some point, you might even find that you prefer teaching online. But as I said, we don't know. We might get back to teaching face-to-face. So the ideas I'm going to be showing you are all adjustable. You can have them both in the online environment, but also face-to-face environment. And especially if you have a computer with a projector or interactive whiteboard. I do use these resources in my classroom. I don't have interactive whiteboards, but I do have a projector. So I just, put them on the screen with very small groups. Sometimes we use my computer. So, like whatever happens, you're prepared. Hopefully, this is the aim. I want to reassure you that we're going to manage, right? We are used to dealing with unexpected problems. We have to anticipate them. So we're going to be fine. So more specifically today, I'm going to tell you about some of my ideas of developing language skills. And we're going to focus on grammar, as I said at the very beginning. And again, as I said, but I want to stress it, both online and face-to-face. We focus on online, but everything can be done face-to-face also, right? It's easier the other way around. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is supporting linguistic content, which is basically supporting teaching grammar with videos. And kids love videos. I like videos too. I don't know about you, but I guess we live in a visual culture. So let's use it in our lesson. And the next thing I'd like to discuss is using a textbook and animations to make it easier for students to understand how grammar works. And again, we're going to be using videos, which is great for online classes, but you can also play them in your classroom. I guess many of you have already used them in your classes, so you're not new to this topic, but some of you might not have used it, so we're going to discuss it in further detail. And the last thing I'd like to discuss today is using natural real-life examples of dialogues and some conversations to create this most real life as real life situations as possible, as much real life as possible, and let kids speak, because that's why they're learning. After all, they're not only learning to pass their exams. There's, the language is something they need in their future life. And I think we are the best example of that, right? Being teachers and also being people who probably communicate in English quite often. So let's imagine a typical student. This is Anya. And do you think Anya is a good student? What impression does she make on you? Yeah, we shouldn't be judging the books by their covers, but yeah, she seems like a good student, right? She seems like a person who maybe likes learning, maybe likes reading. She's smiling, she seems a good friend. So yeah, we like students like Anya. We also know that not all of our students are Anya, but there are some, right? So let's ask Anya 3 questions. And all of these questions would be would you rather questions. The game we sometimes maybe play in our classrooms, would you rather. So assuming that Anya is a great student, she loves learning. So Anya, would you rather learn grammar or chat with your classmates? What do you think would Anya do? She's a good student, but this is the choice. Yeah, this is the choice she has. And no matter how much she loves learning, she's also a child, and these interactions are very important for her. So she's definitely going to choose chatting with her classmates because there are so many interesting things going on, and they need to be discussed right now, right? So it's very important for Anya. So the next question is, Anya, would you rather hear about grammar rules or play a game? Yeah. Anya, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Even though she likes grammar, she might like learning new things. Come on, it's playing a game. I mean, I think even most of us would choose playing a game, wouldn't we? Yeah, I mean, it's just, we like having fun, right? Okay, the last question to our dear student is, Anya, would you rather memorize verbs or watch a video? And I think, yeah, the answer is pretty obvious. Absolutely. Anya will definitely choose watching a video. If you ever come across Anya who actually chooses learning about rules, learning grammar, and memorizing verbs, you are the luckiest people in the world. But I don't think it's very likely to happen. And yeah, absolutely. Anya, apart from being a great student, she's also a child. And just to remind you, Anya is just one of many students that we teach. But the good news is that Anya can actually learn grammar while chatting with her classmates and playing games and watching videos. So that's good news because we can take the best of both worlds. We can combine what we want Anya to do with what Anya wants to do. So it's a win-win situation. We're happy, Anya is happy, right? So let's see how to do it, and let's have a look at some examples. Now, I will be using the examples from the first part of Academy Stars, from the first unit. So, but of course, like everything I discuss here can also be used with higher grades, with higher levels, because the exercises might be adapted in just the same way. Now, apart from using the books and the textbooks, I will be also using some tools that Ina has mentioned before. So I'm going to be using the digital tools that we have and we can use and we should. So I'm going to show you how I use them in my lessons. So enough talking about Anya, let's talk about us and let's talk about the activities that we as teachers want to conduct. So the first thing I'd like to discuss is introducing this topic. It's the very beginning of the school year, and it's the verb to be. And specifically, we're talking about I and he and she. So, just the first and the third person singular, even not like, the third person singular, but without it. Okay, so it's very limited. But of course, the children are really small, so we have to, take it step by step. And this is what it looks like in a book. And these are 2 grammar lessons, lesson 2, lesson 3. So this is what I want to do with my students when I teach them grammar. Now, the moment we get to this part, to the grammar part, the moment we start teaching grammar, my students already know some things, because it's not our first lesson in the year. We have already played a lot with the language, and this is, the 5th or the 6th lesson. My God, a tongue twister. So my students already know the alphabet because we have drilled it and we have played with it, and this is not the focus on this session, but this is something that I assume they know already. They also know how to name basic colors like red, green, blue, just 5, 6 colors. That should be enough. And they also know how to count to 10, probably just from 1 to 10, maybe not backwards yet, although I also drill backwards, but they know the numbers. So they can, count their fingers. And they also know some words such as boy, girl, friend, small, tall, funny. These words will occur in the story. They are not new to the students. Okay, they're already familiar with it, so we're focusing on grammar only because we've already taught the other things we need. Okay, so here's the story. I would like you to have a look and read the story very quickly. I think some of you might be familiar with it already. If you're not, then take a moment to read it. And as you see, even before I teach grammar, even before I start talking about the rules, and I actually won't be talking about the rules that much, but you'll see in a moment. The students are already exposed to the target structure, which, just to remind you, is I am, he is, she is. And I'm, his, and she's, right? So what I normally do is I start with playing the story. And if you use the digital kit, you can just, like, you can see next to number 1, which is the number of the exercise, you can see it's cut a little bit, but you can see it. The icon of headphones, you just play it, you just click it and it plays. So your students can follow. And normally if I were in a classroom, I'll hold my book here and I'll point to the pictures, maybe pause the recording to make sure that the students follow the pictures. But you can also do it if you use online resources, because there are many markers and there are highlighters. And speaking about highlighter, this is actually the next step I'm going to take. So you can see that my target structures are already in bold, right? Not all of them, because they repeat here, but just 3 of them. So, it doesn't get very messy and the students can see the 3 main points, right? So we play the story, I point to pictures with a digital pointer. My students, they have their books open in front of them and they also point to the pictures. And, they can always see it on the screen, so it's sort of a little bit easier. So that's what we do. And then, again, I take this highlighter that I've mentioned before, all right? So I take it and I'm going to be highlighting all the target structures here. Because just to remind you, in your book, only 3 of them are highlighted, right? You can see them also here in the pictures. Because if if they'd highlighted all of them, it would be just too messy, too unclear, and it has to be very clear because the students are very young. In your case, it's actually a new alphabet for them also, right? So there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of knowledge they have to process. So it's very important. So I take the highlighter and I do this, you see? So I find all the places in the story in which the target language is used, and I highlight them. Now, there are 3 target structures here. It's 1 grammatical rule, but 3 structures. I'm, he's, she's. So I'm going to divide it into parts because I believe that in online lessons, it's very important to go slowly, to go step by step, maybe a little bit slower than you do it normally in your classroom, but that's for good. And it doesn't mean that the lessons are boring. It just means that you have to make more, you have to make sure that the students follow. And since most of the time, I guess you see them on cameras, because I've heard that you use Zoom and Google Classroom. But, some students might not have their cameras. Sometimes they might not work. Sometimes the connection is not that good, so you just turn off the camera. You have to take it easy and you have to make sure they see what's going on. So I use a highlighter and we are searching for the structures together, right? I sort of guide my students into noticing. And what I also do here is I stress that every time his appears, we talk about boy, right? So look, there is a girl pointing to the boy. The boy is tall. He's tall. And then we also have a robot, and the robot is masculine in the book. So I say, oh, the robot is small. He's small. And the robot is funny. He's funny. All right. So I just want to make sure that the students follow. And I do the same with the remaining structures. So the next one would be she's. And look, it's my friend. It's Sarah, right? Sarah, it's a girl name. It's a girl. This is something that is not written here, but I will say it. I might not say it in my classroom always. I will say it online because, again, I need to make sure that everyone understands. And if you make funny voices, kids are going to love it. So if you say, oh, she's 6, whoa, you have to put a lot of enthusiasm into it to sort of to give this energy through the camera, which is not very easy, but it's very rewarding. So I also do the same thing with I'm. And when I talk about I'm pointing to myself. I'm not pointing to a boy or girl, not to make it too confusing. I'm pointing to myself. I'm Anya. I'm Gosha, right? And you give your name. So you can then ask your students to repeat. This is a good drilling moment. If your students have cameras and have microphones, you can, they can also say I'm, but there needs to be this movement, okay? Because we're sort of coding certain patterns in our students' heads. All right. So here comes the next challenge. We have already listened to the story. We have already found a lot of target language pieces. We have drilled some of them. We have moved a little bit, right? We have pointed to things. So here's a challenge. And it's actually a challenge for you too, because you're also sitting in front of your screens. So I want to activate you a little bit. So in these 2 pages, how many he's can you find? Now, we're not only talking about the story, we're talking about the whole thing. 2 pages, okay? Try to find all of them, right? And let's see. I'll wait for some answers and we'll see if you get it correctly. It's not that easy, actually. I know it's also quite small, but you've got 4, 6, right, 7. Yeah, so you're finding more and more. Remember, not only the story, but both pages, whole pages. We've got 8, 10, 11, 10. Yeah, we've got different numbers, you see, and this is great because, first of all, it's not that easy to find it, right? Because you might skip something, but that's the whole thing. The kids are challenged here and they're looking, it's a bit of a competition, but they're also working together sort of against the teacher. So it's cool because we're not, creating any unnecessary division and any unnecessary maybe conflicts. We want to avoid that. We don't want that. Okay, so thank you very much for your answers. The answer is 11. I mean, I have found 11. I hope I got it correctly. I'm not very good at mathematics though, so always double check, right? But I found 11. They are circled here, and I would also do it with other structures like I'm and she's. Right? So I would play 3 rounds, but I would maybe also activate kids a little bit. So clap your hands as many times as you can see, the target structures. We're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? Just to move them a little bit. It's not necessary, but you have to sort of observe the situation. You have to judge it, right? Because you know best. All right. So if you think about what happened here, first of all, before we even teach grammar, but we actually do teach grammar here, our students are constantly exposed to target grammar. They see it, they say it, they show it, they use body language, they use their voices, even when they have their microphones off. I think it's always good to try to maybe, if you have a chance to do so, establish it with their parents that they should be speaking out loud in front of their computers. And even if you don't hear them, it's all right, as long as they say it and they repeat after you. It's okay. So I also do it in my lessons in which some students don't have microphones, but it's okay. Sometimes I even ask them to, if they're maybe a little bit older, so they can manage it, I would ask them to turn off their microphones and say it. So, we don't have this noise, but I see that they're repeating because I can see their lips moving. Now, another thing that has just happened is that you give your students the chance to observe grammar in a very natural context. Now, they don't know it, but you know it, right? They don't need to know it. It's enough that it's just happening. So they, not only do they see these structures separately, but they also see them as they're connected to, the pictures, certain situations in the story, or maybe a picture on the page 13 when there are two boys, two girls, pointing to things. So you can see that we talk about people, and we talk about, me as a person, or a boy or a girl, right? So this is also very important. And also, along with that comes creating visual associations. All right, they see a boy and they see his, right? That's why it's so important to stress it in online classes, because in face-to-face classes it's slightly different. You take one student who's a boy, you say he is, right? You take a girl, you say she is, I am. In online classes, these visuals they're crucial, because we do not have a physical contact, right? So they're crucial, and I believe you should always stress them. I stress them all the time. I repeat it so many times, but I just, modulate my voice, change it a little bit, and it actually works really fine. All right, now it's time to move on to, hard grammar, right? Something more concrete. So this is the next lesson. So the children have already been exposed to the language, they have drilled it, they have practiced it. It's time for them to understand how it works. So here we've got the help of one of my favorite things in the world, which is called, in Academy Stars, it's called graphic grammar. And it's a set of videos, but also the pictures in your books. You're familiar with it, most likely, in which grammar works as these, Lego blocks that you just put together. Just like when you want to build a house with Lego, you have to assemble the pieces. So this is exactly how it works. And I will tell you why it is so great and so important in a moment. But first, let's watch the video. All right, so now, if everything goes well, we're going to play the video. Some of you might have seen it before. Yes, we've got it. All right.
To be. I, or he, or she. I am Beth. I'm Beth. He is tall. He's tall. She is 6. She's 6. I'm Beth. He's tall. She's 6.
All right, excellent. So we've got it. Yes, so we've got the video. And as you can see, in the video, the voice speaks really slowly. I am Beth. I'm Beth. And everything is repeated at the end. Now, what I love so much about it is that, first of all, Anya is really happy. And not only Anya, right? There are also other students, and they're really, really happy because they have watched the video, and we know that they prefer this to learning grammar. Now, what they don't know is that they are learning grammar while watching this video. But there are also other reasons that I like incorporating these videos in my lessons, and I actually do it anytime I can, which is, first of all, there is this fun factor. Because if you think about it, many of us, and I also do it, we use videos. I know you maybe sometimes use YouTube for some, stories and some songs. I also do it, but I think about it like there is a lot of fun factor here. But is it enough? Is there enough learning there? Because kids love the videos, even if they don't understand half of it because it's a long story. There's a lot of words. They love it because they follow the pictures. But I believe that the best thing we can do is we can use their enthusiasm for watching videos to actually show them something that is pretty, is nice, with nice music, nice pictures, but also teaches them something. Now, the content, the linguistic context, so the grammar is explained in a way that uses, by the method that uses very simple tools, blocks, and they're also very relatable. Because, kids play with blocks. They know how they work. They know that if you want to build a tower, you have to put one block on another, right? So they know that blocks can get connected. So when they see two blocks connecting, they can relate to it. They cannot relate to complex rules. I mean, come on, they're very young, but they can relate to toys, right? And what's also important is that students start recognizing some part of the sentence because they're, using different colors and they move and they can see that even though I'm is one word, it looks like one word, it's actually two words. So they can, start recognizing how things work. And I believe that once they start seeing grammar as a logical and very intuitive method of putting words together, and definitely more intuitive than, abstract rules that sometimes even adults don't understand because they're just, it's meta level, it helps them create new sentences later on because it's, I have because I've been learning English for ages and I still remember when my teacher first used timelines. And up to now, I still keep learning languages and I am learning German at the moment. And until now, when I try to speak German, because my level is not very high, every time I try to decide which tense to use, I see a timeline in front of my eyes and I see these blocks being organized. It actually does work. So if you create good habits, then both you and your students will benefit from them. And then hello from Germany. And then you're prepared, your students are prepared to do tasks like that. For example, we've got 5 sentences and we have to match them, with pictures. So who's saying what? And students have already seen multiple examples. They have already highlighted these things. So they see the target language here, because that's what we did at the beginning when you were searching for these 11 words. And also, they have practiced distinguishing between different subjects. Remember, at the beginning, we used he and she differently, and I'm, and then they had the video in which they also had a girl and a boy and pointing to another girl and saying, I'm Beth, she's 6, he's tall, right? And also, they see words as bricks. We've already established that, right? So when you want to challenge them and assign this free practice activity in which they have to create their own sentences, they already see the pattern. They, like in face-to-face lessons, you can actually cut out little pieces of paper. Or if you have blocks, if you have Lego or anything, or you can just take them from playing room and you can write or put stickers on them, you can play with it. That's why in online lessons, these videos are so useful because you don't have these physical blocks. And also you might have them in front of your computer, risky business, because sometimes the vision is actually a mirror reflection. And, you think you're showing I am, whereas you're actually showing I, it's very tricky. I avoid such things because you have to always, double check. So, again, there is a small difference between online and face-to-face environment, but in this case, you can do both, right? So just exploit it to the fullest and you should be fine. But there are many more examples ahead of us, so let's move on. And now we're gonna do grammar. It's the same thing, but this time we're going to use a and n. And I'm going to show you another method of working with it. Because I do believe in creating habits. And, it's not like every lesson is a grammar lesson. There are breaks. There are also vocabulary and some songs and stuff. But sometimes I actually like to change it, and I want you to have enough tools so you can choose which one works better for you, and you can choose which one you might want to do in your lesson. So we're going to be using these 2 pages. They come from the next unit, and as you can see, the structure is very similar, right? So there is a story, there is a task to the story, and then there are blocks, and then there is restricted practice or controlled practice, which is exercise 2 on the page on the right side, and then there's free practice. Now, my students approaching this task, they already know the alphabet. They know how to name school objects, which you can see in the picture here. And of course, they know he is, she is, I am, right? Because we have already taught it and we've revised it and so on. So because they already know he's, she's, I'm going to challenge them, and I'm going to see how well they get this grammar by assigning a task. And of course, I'm going to say a lot about, like, there's a special task for you. I'm so excited. It's not very easy, but I think you can do it. Let's see. Right? So something like that. So this is what they have seen. He is his, right? They're already familiar with that. So what I'm going to show them by taking a screenshot. Most of the time I just take a screenshot and make a 1 slide or 2 slide presentation, nothing more. Or you can use digital tools and you can just, put a square and write something else there. It's also possible. I turn he into it. And they're supposed to help me what's going to happen, right? And because they have seen she's and he's and I'm, but especially he's and she's, because it's the same verb and the same form of it, they should probably figure out that the answer to it is it's. So let's challenge them further. If they don't get it here, they get a lot of support from you. It's like, even if they don't guess, it doesn't matter, because what you do here is you teach them to start thinking about it, to start thinking in patterns, right? So let's challenge them further. And this time okay. So here's how I check the answer. It's, right? It's your answer was correct. Or you can simply do it like that, and it's all right. Or check it with a video. It's entirely up to you. All right. So the next challenge. So this time we also have the verb is, but we have the question word what. So how can I put it together? And I do use the method of 2 fingers all the time. I do it all the time to show that things go together, or like that, or like that. It's up to you. You choose your own method. So they should probably, at this stage, especially having figured it out in the previous stage with or without your support, they should already figure out that it's what, right? So they already see that is very often turns into apostrophe S, right? We've got it. Of course, they must be reminded in the future. They will have to be reminded. And it's not like you're going to see it once and learn it. Of course, you need to revise it a lot and so on. But you see, there's already a lot of things going on here, and they get organized, which is exactly what we want. And then we can also check it in our story. So when they have already guessed, we can say, okay, so now let's see if you were right. Let's double check. Let's find examples in the story. And as you can see, there are many examples in the story, because the story uses the target language, obviously, right? So why is that so important to me? I mean, why do I use this method sometimes? Well, according to the research study currently conducted at Macmillan Hospital, and it's conducted by Harvard University, the average attention span of a kid who is 6 years old is about 12 to 18 minutes. For an 8-year-old, it's about 16 to 24. So if our children are like, 7, let's say some of them, it's going to be like, 14 to 22 minutes, something like that, I guess, right? So as you see, it's not very long, and our lessons are much longer than that. They normally don't last 12 minutes, right? But closer to 45, I believe. And I also teach lessons with young learners that last for 60 minutes, and they're 6 years old. So, there has to be a lot of things going on. And to help your students expand their attention span, well, there are many factors that have an impact on that. And, some of them you have no, like, you cannot change. If they're hungry, if they're tired, there's nothing you can do. But one of the most important factors to me here is how interested the students are in the activity. If they are interested, they can focus for a longer, bigger amount of time, right? So if I challenge them, even though, this challenge wasn't that easy, but if I challenge them, if they're used to the fact that first we listen to the story, then we do this, then we do that, and then I change it, there's a surprise factor. You're like, oh, that's different. I don't know it. And so you can sort of steer them into doing things and keep them active and keep them motivated and keep them, actively participating in the activities, which is exactly what we want, right? Because not all of our students are Anya. We also have Felix in our class. We also have other students. They sometimes, have different approach, right? All right. So we've listened to the story. And in this activity, I want to talk a little bit more about this attention span because I want to show you how to deal with it in online lessons. So we've got a task in which we have to listen or read the story, listen to it again, and decide if these sentences are true or false, right? And if you think about it, instead of just saying true or false or putting a cross or a tick, there's so much more the students can do, even if they're sitting in front of their computers. For example, they can clap their hands. If it's true, clap your hands, right? So I'd like to ask you to write just maybe 2-3 more ideas. What can be done? What physical movement can be done in front of a computer? We're talking about really small kids. Remember, they might have headphones. They're not Bluetooth, but connected via a cable. So they can't move too far from the computer. Thumb up. They can stand up. They cannot, exactly. They can stand up, even if the cable is here, it's long enough for them to stand up. They're short, right? They're very small. And maybe they cannot spin around, right? But because, the cable. But yes, they can close their eyes. They can blink their eyes. I haven't thought about that, but I like it. Like, they can smile, like, right? Or show a sad face. Right? They can do a lot of things. I'll show you some other ideas that I've got, but I love your ideas too, and I'm definitely going to use them in my lessons too. Thumbs up and, blinking eyes. I love it. They can also touch their nose, right? Or with their hands, or touch any other part of their face. They can also touch their knee, They can also, touch their back, Whatever you want them to do, whether you want them to move more or less. They can also jump. If they can stand up, they can jump. Not too much, but the cables, they're really long enough for them to jump too. Raise a hand, yes, absolutely. They can also pat their head, like, in a very delicate way, of course, they can pat their heads. That's also something that they can do in front of their computers. They can also stomp their feet because look, I'm stomping my feet now. You can see my body moving, right? You're activating different muscles. It's a bit more tiring if you sit and you have to stomp your feet, at least for me, maybe not for children. And you can see them moving. As long as you can see them moving, it means they're doing something. And the whole thing here is not to teach them how to stomp their feet, but how to move them a little bit, or just to move them a little bit. So to introduce some TPR, total physical response activities in online lessons in which we are glued to our screens. All right. So then there is the next part. There is my favorite. Okay. So then we watch a movie, a film, a video. Right. So let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at the video.
A or an?
Ooh.
What is this? What's this? It is a pen. It's a pen. What's this? It's an umbrella. What's this? It's a pen. It's an umbrella.
Okay, cool. So we got the video and you can already see, you've seen it before, but you see it here too, that our target language is AN, right? So remember that our students, they already know the alphabet. They're familiar with it. We have practiced it. There's this, starter unit. So we've drilled it a lot. They're familiar with that. And also, if you have a look at this picture, you've got this little train, colorful train with the letters that get connected with N. Now, of course, there will be exceptions like University of Uniform. This is not the moment to talk about them, right? I think you would agree that this is something we might introduce a little bit later, like, when they're a little bit older. For now, they have to start recognizing letters, so don't worry about that. Just forget about that, We're not going to teach them present perfect when they're 6, right? Not yet, maybe one day. Right, so they've seen the video, they see how things work, and now what we can do is play the alphabet game. We have to decide, there's a controlled practice task, we have to decide which things go with A and which things go with N, right? So the objects are written, but they're also pictures. I recommend starting with pictures, so it's a little bit easier. And the students, this is a moment when you can actually check if they understand the concept of a vowel, if they really understand that, AI and so on. Before these letters, you put N, right? And this is a moment for you to check it. Now, you can also, optionally, you can introduce some TPR. So clap your hands if it's A and 2 times if it's N. So we've got pen, rubber, N, apple, right? This is something I like doing, just to, code it that 2 letters there. And what you can do is you can jump back to the starter unit where you have the whole alphabet. And you can use the alphabet, just always make sure that these nouns are countable. Okay, not to add, for example, to water, right? So you just have to make sure, but you're in control, so you're in charge, so you'll be pointing to things. And you can use the tools. So this time it's not a highlighter, although you can use a highlighter too, but I like to change them. So this one is a pencil. You circle a thing and you nominate a child to say it. So I circle a doll and I say Anya, and Anya says a doll. And then I circle this ant and I say Felix, and Felix says an insect, right? So this is a big challenge, and the children will need a lot of support from you here, but you can go through the whole alphabet really, right? And you can look, there's so much here. You don't need any special materials. You just use what we've got here. And you can also use different colors. If you want to support them more, you can circle N with green and A with blue. There are many things you can do. And you can also simply point to things and make children ask questions, because a part of our target language was, what's this? So what's this? It's a fox. I, as a teacher, circle the fox, because the children will not do it. I'm sharing my screen, right? So, and then the boy says it's a fox. And then the boy I circle another thing, and the boy chooses another student, says, Julia, what's this? It's an orange. And then Julia is going to choose another student, and so on and so forth, which I love for two reasons. First of all, I practice my target grammar. We need it, right? And it's in a fun way, and you never know what I'm going to choose. I'm going to play with it, go like, I don't know, maybe this, I'll play with my voice and my body language. Anya is very happy because she has played a game, and she has also chatted with her classmates. She is starting to bond, create bonds, and she's starting to make friends. She's learning the names because maybe the children haven't seen each other face to face before, right? So they have to get to know each other. In online environment, you always have the name written, so it's sort of okay, right? And so apart from that, what happened is that there was a challenge helping to expand students' attention span. Remember, we talked about it. At the very beginning, there was a challenge before you introduced grammar, before you explained it. Also, as in the previous one, linguistic content explained using very simple, relatable tools, which are blocks, right? And children get a chance to interact in the online environment, which is absolutely, this is something that is so important to me, to create a space for them to interact, right? It's very, very important. So let's keep doing that. And it is possible in the online environment, no matter how big your class is, right? Because even if you work with very big classes online, the children, they never gonna know when they're going to be picked up, right? Because the other students choose, or you can choose. So they have to be on a standby, right? But speaking about speaking and talking to students, I'd like to show you something else. And this time we're going to use a different video. We're going to practice using his and her using a video which is attached to language in use, right? So we're going to watch the video just for you to see how it works, what it looks like. It's a very short one, okay? And and in a moment I'm going to discuss it in detail. All right, so let's have a look. Oh, perfect.
Who's this? She's my sister. Her name is Sally. This is her fish. Who's that? He's my friend. His name is Jim. That's his tiger. A tiger? Run! It's okay. It's a toy tiger.
They're right. Okay, so you can see it's a very short video. It's absolutely cute. It's adorable when the girl says, a tiger, run! I love it. And as you can see, this is exactly what we want our students to do, right? We want them to have dialogues like that. When they have dialogues like that, we might, go to the staff room, have a cup of coffee, and sit very happy and proud of what we've taught, right? So, my students approaching this task, they already know this, that. They already know my, your. They already know he's, she's, I'm, it's. And they already know how to name family members. So they already have the tools to create really great sentences. And what we have to do is teach them how to use it. And by showing such a video, which is so short, it's a couple of seconds, but it's so, the educational value here is so great and so high. Because students, first of all, get a chance to see what you're expecting of them to say, right? Because you can't just say, oh, so now you talk, right? We have to show them. And they see exactly what they have to do. But apart from that, they can listen to and they can hear children their age performing the task. It's not, a lady on a microphone. It's kids who are also their age. They're 6 or 7, right? And so again, it's relatable. They can relate to that because they would consider these children their friends, right? That's why children like cartoons with children. They wouldn't like to watch cartoons about adult people searching for a job, right? Because this is just not their world yet. They don't know. Okay, they can also echo the model phrases. And this is a task that I sometimes assign. So when you hear it, say it. Or I pause the video and we repeat. And sometimes we repeat a couple of times. So they can, they can echo it. They can practice the pronunciation. They can practice intonation. Super important. And apart from that, they can use the language in a meaningful context, something they can relate to, talking to their friends about things that are important to them, right? So look, if you look at the whole dialogue again, this is the pattern. And this is what I prepare for my students. I either use the book and I just circle it. For the purpose of this presentation, I made a slide, which I also sometimes do in lessons. I just don't make more than 2 or 3 slides per lesson because I don't want to spend 10 hours preparing a lesson, right? So you can structure it. So who's this? It's my mom. Her name is Lily. It's her cat. And who's that? It's my grandpa. His name is Ben. It's that's his lion, right? That's his, or whatever you choose. Sorry, yeah, I just had to the double check. So that's his lion, right? But there is also another thing you can do, especially for smaller classes. It would also work for bigger classes. The biggest class I taught online was 24 students. Wasn't easy, but they were all 7 years old. Wasn't easy, but we managed. So you can have the very same dialogue after you have drilled it and so on, when your students feel confident with it. And you go, so you assign a child, and mind you, because here the instructions might be quite complicated. It really, like, what you do really depends on the policy of your school. I actually believe that sometimes it's better to use the native language to explain complex games, because I think that there's no point spending 20 minutes on explaining the rules. I'd rather spend 2 minutes on that and 18 more on playing. You know what I mean? So what I do here is say, okay, so now I nominate a student, say, now you have to mime an animal. And another student, and I'm asking my students, who's this? And the student has to say, he's my friend. His name is Felix. This is his, what animal is it? Can you see it? All right, so Felix is miming, or maybe, you know, the children have toys. They can also use some toys, right? So he's my friend. His name is Felix. This is his crocodile. Exactly. Now here we're talking about this and that. Now that is a little bit further. So how do you deal with it? Well, when a child is showing an animal, or it might be a dinosaur too. When a child is showing an animal, they don't need the headphones, so they can take them off. Some of them don't use headphones, so it's going to be easier. You do the same thing here, but when you say that, the child has to be a little bit further. So I am now a crocodile, and they say that's this is my teacher Maggie. This is my teacher. Her name is Maggie. That's her crocodile. So this is closer to the screen. That is further to the screen. And let children decide if they want to sit closer or further. So it's even more challenging. So the other students have to decide this or that. You know, right? Doable in front of a computer. Perfectly feasible, right? So. Apart from the fact that you can, again, make students move, everyone's engaged, because, you know, even when Felix is showing his crocodile and it's it's Lena's turn to guess, all the children are watching because they all want to guess. You know, they might not say it out loud, or even if they do, it doesn't matter. But, you know, they're like, yeah, oh, what's that? And if they don't know too many animals, you can just, you know, they can just repeat 3 animals. It doesn't matter. You can assign animals. If they pretend to be something that they don't know how to name, you can name it. If they show a bear, you say, oh, I think it's a bear, right? So you can do it. And if you do it, Anya is the happiest because she has chatted with her classmates, she has played a game, and she has watched the video. So a win-win again. Anya wants to come back to our lessons. And not only did she do that, but she can now also, or at least she has started distinguishing between this and that in the online setting in which the space is very limited. But still, you can do it, right? Of course, it's easier in the classroom. And doing the same thing in a classroom, you just put, in a face-to-face classroom, you just put children in different parts of it, right? I have to, in different parts of it, right? So it's basically the same. But whatever you can teach on face-to-face, you can also teach it online. She has also recycled some vocabulary related to animals. Maybe she has learned some new words also. She has interacted with her peers in a very authentic way, right? She was guessing, it was personal, and she had a memorable learning experience because she had fun. She wants to come, like, she's excited. There's, English lesson tomorrow. Yay, right? Hopefully. That's what we want. That's why we're doing our best to make our lessons so good. And also, she stayed focused and she was engaged, and her attention span was hopefully a bit wider, a bit bigger, because she was challenged too. Challenged, engaged. What else do you need? Nothing really. Right? So I'm going to show you, we've got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to show you one more activity, all right? Which is also based on the dialogues, right? So we are going to watch this dialogue now, and I'll show you one more thing you can do with it.
What is it? Guess. Is it blue? No, it isn't. Is it red? Yes, it is. Is it an apple? No, it isn't. Is it a pen? Yes, it is.
All right. The kids are absolutely adorable, right? So we've got a similar dialogue. So this time the phrases are shorter, but there is more exchange here. So the kids also have to stay focused, right? It's also challenging. They already know the colors. They know AN because we have taught them, right? And they know some nouns to describe some popular objects, also some things around them. Now, at school, what you do is you'd just put things on the table. But in the online environment, you can't be sure that every kid will have the same set of things in front of the computer. If you do, it's actually, you're very lucky and use it, take advantage of it. But if you don't, the children might need to know the names of other objects, right? But what they practice here is short and longer answers. Yes, it is. I mean, short answers. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. And also recycling some vocab. So what we do, we have watched the video already. You've seen how it works. I use my online tools, not the highlighter, but the marker, to cover some words. And my children, my students, they see which words I'm covering. I don't do it prior to the lesson. I do it sort of live in real time. So they see it, so they can like, oh, I can see, I can remember. And I cover it. And then I'm like, okay, so which words have I hidden? So which words are hidden? What is it? Guess. It's blue. What was there? Do you remember? Of course I remember, right? But the kids, they might struggle a little bit. And then what I do is I hide even more words and play the audio, right? I'm not going to do it now, but you just click on the headphones, you play the audio file, and the children follow, and they can also follow the text, but they don't see all of the words. This is an activity you might have done in the face-to-face setting. It's so easy to do it online. It's so much easier to do it online. So I keep doing it. My kids love it. There is a guessing game, and it's like, yeah. Eventually, sometimes we cover the whole dialogue if it's short, because I, just cover one thing after another, and they're like, yeah, you can cover the whole thing. Okay, and what I do next is I put my students in pairs, and I have them read the dialogue with the things blurred, right? Now that's a challenge, but they have heard the dialogue twice already. They have seen it. We've repeated some things. They have guessed the words. And if they don't remember, I encourage their peers to help them. Like, what was there? I can't remember either. Can you help Anya? Yeah, because I don't remember. Like, not to make Anya feel ashamed. And I think, yeah, Tatiana is right. Not only the kids like it, adults too. That's true. I like it too. All right. So the final stage, if you want to challenge your students even further, now that's going to be really challenging, but I like to try it once in a while. You know your classes, you know your students best. So, or like when you're getting to know them, you can sort of feel to which extent you can go further. So another thing we can do is we can play the video on mute, so with no sound, and then have students act out dialogue. They have their books, so they can have them in front of them, and they can, if they don't remember, they can read the text. It's okay if they get a lot of support. It's just for fun and it's just for drilling, right? And and two students, they, say the dialogue. So it's pretty challenging, but hey, it's fun. So Anya is, just over the moon because she has chatted with her classmates, she has met them better, she has watched the video, she's played the game. And apart from that, what Anya doesn't know, but we know, and what makes us happy, is that she has drilled the dialogue in various versions, right? And she has played the guessing game. So, she's excited. She wants to come back to English lessons. And I have challenged my students, but I can adjust the level of difficulty to the level of my class. I don't have to do all the steps. I can take it easy. I can do one step in one lesson and then another one in the next lesson, like we can play it as much as we want. So it's very easy to adjust it, right? And also something that is the added value here is that my students had to pay attention to also the lip movement because it helps, and the body language and the intonation, all of these things that are also so important. But sometimes we focus so much on the rules that we forget that this is also a part of teaching a language. And I have to keep myself reminded that I should focus on that because sometimes I forget. I'm only human. I'm doing my best not to, but So let's sum up very quickly because our time is up. So sum up what we've learned, what we've discussed actually, right? We have discussed developing skills, linguistic skills, especially grammar, in both physical and online classroom. You can see that both of these things can be done in both environments. And we have supported the linguistic content with the videos, and they are cute, they are adorable, and they have high educational value. Victoria has mentioned that we have also built some social links between children and between us and children. And it's true, because if you haven't seen your students face-to-face and now we teach them online, it's a little bit more difficult. We have to remember about it. It is very important. Without it, we're not able to conduct classes, to give classes, right? We have used both textbooks and animations. We have combined everything so it's easier for students to understand the structures. And we also practice using natural real-life examples of the language, so what we actually want them to achieve, right? And before I finish, just to remind you, with good books, you have good materials. There's nothing to panic about. There are so many, I love this thing in the online kit. You've got these flashcards which are blurred. So great, isn't it? It's fantastic because you don't have to hide it with a piece of paper. It's blurred, the kids can guess. I love it. So with good books, you have a lot of things. You have videos, you have audio files, you've got everything you need. And if it can be taught face-to-face, it can be taught online. So I hope the next time you wake up in the morning, you have your coffee, you have your favorite breakfast, and you get yourself ready to start a new day at work. Instead of looking like that, you will look like that. So thank you very much. I hope you find these ideas useful. I encourage you to use them, and I really keep my fingers crossed for you. It's not going to be an easy year, but it's going to be such an interesting year. Finally something going on, finally some adventure for us teachers too. So thank you very much, and I'm going to see probably, I don't know if all of you, but definitely some of you in the next webinar about different topic in a couple of minutes. So thank you very much, and Ina, over to you.
Gosha, thank you very much. Поки Гоша трошечки відпочиває, нагадаю, що її презентація, її тренінг, я б сказала, або навіть майстер-клас був на основі підручника Academy Stars, який складається з 6 рівнів, плюс до нього є ще рівень стартер. Цей підручник має гриф Міністерства освіти і науки України, він є у переліку рекомендованої літератури, до нього є календарно-тематичне планування, яке завантажується з нашого сайту macmillan.ukraine.com. memorizedverb.com. Дуже швидко, бо бачила в чат-боксі коментарі, дійсно з цим підручником дуже легко і дуже просто переходити з навчання в класі у дистанційне навчання. У вчителя є книга для вчителя, фізична книга для вчителя, в якій є код доступу, за яким активується ресурсний центр вчителя, генератор тестів, інтерактивний підручник, який показувала Гоша, з вбудованими аудіо, відео і цілою низкою інструментів. І також у цьому підручнику є Pupils Practice Kit, це додаткова онлайн-практика з автоматичною перевіркою, як учні засвоюють лексику, граматику та фонетику. Це ресурс вчителя. У учня є паперовий підручник, паперовий робочий зошит. В підручнику також є унікальний код доступу, активуючи який учні мають ресурсний центр, в якому завантажується все аудіо і все відео. Тобто, якщо раптом зникає інтернет, а таке трапляється, дитина нічого не втрачає, дитина може подивитися ці чудові відео, які демонструвала Гоша, послухати всі аудіофайли, і також учень має додаткову онлайн-практику, яка має назву Pupils Practice Kit, з автоматичною перевіркою. Ця онлайн-практика для дітей іде у формі інтерактивних ігор. Так виглядає активований код в книзі для вчителя. Ви бачите, що якщо ви активуєте кілька рівнів, вони всі знаходяться в одному місці на книжковій полиці, як я вже неодноразово казала, в одному кліку на відстані одного кліку мишею. Всередині Teacher's Presentation Kit, тобто інтерактивний підручник, виглядає таким чином. На горі ви бачите панель інструментів. Деякі інструменти сьогодні Гоша вам показувала. Це і ручка, це хайлайтер. Тут є можливість додавати текст, додавати якісь замітки, можна збільшувати або зменшувати зображення. Аудіо ви бачите вбудований, ось такий значок навушників. Біля майже кожної вправи є такий сірий квадратик, ви бачите, він обведений колом у мене. Натискаючи на нього, вправа з підручника оживає і стає інтерактивною. Так само в одному кліку знаходиться вбудоване відео, тобто все, що потрібно для того, щоб провести онлайн-урок без додаткової підготовки, без створення якихось презентацій і слайдів, все це є в готовому вигляді у вчителя. Той ресурс, який активується за кодом в книзі для підручника, він працює не тільки на комп'ютері, він працює на будь-якому пристрої, у якому є підключений інтернет, тобто це і планшети, і смартфони, і айфони, і айпеди. Ця платформа, вона є інтуїтивною, тобто вона сама розпізнає, яке програмне забезпечення на пристрої і підлаштовується під нього. Заглянемо одним очком усередину цієї онлайн-практики. Ви бачите, є кілька вправ на лексику, кілька вправ на граматику, завдання на фонетику і правопис, є ігри з флеш-картами, є пісня, яку діти співають для відпрацювання лексики, причому ця пісня є як у повному варіанті, так і у караоке-варіанті. Я говорила про автоматичну перевірку, так візуально те, що бачить учень, тобто він виконує завдання, натискає Submit і бачить одразу, скільки в нього правильних відповідей. Система показує, які відповіді були правильними, а які відповіді неправильними, і у учня є можливість повертатися до цієї вправи і виконувати її стільки разів, скільки потрібно, щоб нарешті було 100% і всі відповіді правильно. Чи позначаються діагностичні роботи та коригувальне навчання в КТП? За нашими новими нормативними документами, так, ми маємо прописати діагностичні роботи в КТП, але як частину урока, а не як цілий урок. Це я прочитала запитання у чат-боксі. Дякую за ваше запитання, дійсно дуже актуальне. Хочу нагадати, що для всіх підручників і для підручника Academy Stars, зокрема, на нашому сайті доступний автоматизований діагностичний тест. Тобто, якщо ви плануєте працювати з будь-яким рівнем курсу Academy Stars, ви подасте заявку, і вам, і вашим учням буде доступний цей тест, який учні проходять онлайн. Система сама все перевіряє, вам надсилає розгорнутий результат, де ви побачите картину по своїй групі, по своєму класу і зможете зрозуміти, які саме аспекти, які навчалися у попередньому класі, потребують коригування та додаткового повторення. Ми переходимо до другої частини нашого першого дня онлайн-конференції. Вона стосуватиметься цікавих ідей і порад до навчання 5, 6, 7 класів. Це буде знову Гоша, бо вона у нас є, як ви бачите, неймовірно талановита, в неї безліч корисних практичних ідей. Одна з причин, чому так, бо вона є практикуючий вчитель. Вона буде базуватися і брати приклади з нашого курсу All Clear for Ukraine. Ви бачите їх 3 рівні, 5, 6 і 7 класи. Календарне планування до цього курсу є, грифи є, і цей курс також є в переліку рекомендованої літератури. Поки Гоша підключається, я відповім на ті запитання, які я бачу в чат-боксі. Пані Ірина, вам надійде, вам, як і будь-якому іншому учаснику нашої сьогоднішньої конференції, надійде на наступному тижні лист з посиланням на заявку. Щойно ви її заповните, і ми підтвердимо, що так, ви дійсно є користувачем підручника Macmillan, вам та вашим учням буде наданий доступ. Ви дізнаєтесь про це, коли отримуєте лист з підтвердженням та інструкціями, як і де підключати учнів до тестування. Гоша, hope you had your rest and you are ready to talk about mixed ability in a mixed reality, right?
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm ready. I've drunk a lot of water. I've walked a bit. So I had my own TPR, you know, just to, sorry, just to move a little bit. You know, we're all sitting in front of computers. It's tiring for our backs sometimes. So I'm all ready, and we're ready to kick off with the second session, which is called Mixed Ability and Mixed Reality. And this time we're going to be talking about a bit of higher levels, and we're going to be talking about how to teach mixed ability classes in both, again, face-to-face and online environment, because this is the mixed reality that we found also ourselves in, and and we have to accept it and adjust to it the best we can, right? Okay, so let's start with the beginning. It's always good to start with the beginning. Let's start with establishing what this thing, mixed ability, really means, because we keep hearing it, mixed ability, mixed ability. Let's establish the definition, all right? So we all agree on what we're talking about. So mixed ability classroom means a couple of things. First of all, it means that in our class, there are different levels of proficiency. And when you start teaching children, they're very young, normally they start from more or less the same level. But when they reach, you know, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, there might be more differences, because, you know, some children are simply better students, and some children love English while other children love mathematics, and, you know, like, so some children will be just, some students will be just simply better, and some students take extra English classes, so, you know, they make progress a bit faster. So various levels of proficiency, but not only, because it also means various learning styles. You know, some children, there is like this division between visual, kinesthetic, it has already been, it's quite controversial, but like, some children prefer to sit while others prefer to move, while others like, prefer to listen to things, to remember them. So these learning styles, I mean, the dominant part here, okay? And it also means various levels of engagement, because some students will come to our lessons and go like, yeah, let's learn something. Some of them will, just go like, yeah, so show me what you've got to teach me something. And it happens. And because that might happen for many reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like your lessons, but sometimes they're tired, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, English, like, no, I'm not going to use it in my life ever. So this will be different too in a mixed ability class. And also different motivation behind learning. Some students will learn just to pass their exams. Some students will learn because they want to have good grades. Some students will learn because they want to understand the songs they're listening to. And other students will learn because they have friends in different parts of the world, because they play online games and they need this language. So these motivations would also be different. So the whole thing is quite a lot already to consider. And if you think about it, if you think about these 4 factors, to me, it appears that, well, it kind of happens in every classroom, right? Like, we never, ever, not even hardly ever, but literally never get classes in which the level of students is always the same, the abilities are the same, the motivations are the same. Even if you teach also, let's say, small groups, and the process of assigning students to groups is very detailed, which hardly ever happens really. Still, there will be some differences. Now, the thing to notice here is the gap between them, because we talk about mixed ability classes. If the gap is big enough, it actually provides more challenges for us teachers, right? So it's all about how different these things are. So if you teach 2 students and one is A2 level, strong A2 level, and the other one is, let's say, A2 plus level, let's say average A2 plus level, is it mixed ability? Well, the skill is very similar, right? But they still might have different motivations. They might have different learning styles, right? So we have to take all of these things into consideration. So let's imagine a class full of students. They're all friends. They've been together at this school for a couple of years now. And here's what we're facing. The first student, Felix. I like this name a lot. You might have noticed. So Felix says, I love English. I learn every day and I watch cartoons and I have friends in England. Now, who would like to teach Felix? Who wouldn't, right? Felix is a dream student. But you also know that, Felix, apart from the fact that he's a dream student, he's also a very unique student. 1 in a million, so to speak, right? In the same class, there is also another student. There is Robert. And Robert says, I don't understand this whole present perfect. Why can't we use past simple all the time? So what does it tell us? It tells us that Robert, he has some grammar knowledge. He might have a good conduct of past simple, right? Which means that he does understand the sort of concept of grammar. There are things that are easy for him. But what gets more complicated are, for Robert, is learning things that he can't really translate into his native language, because in Slavic languages we don't really have this concept of present perfect, right? So this is a challenge for him, right? And he is also a little bit annoyed, so his motivation level is like, we have to keep it higher. In the same class, it's a big class, there's also Igor. And Igor says, grammar is easy, but I can't remember new words no matter how hard I try. Which means that it's not that he doesn't like English. It's not that he finds it difficult. Grammar to him is like, it's rules, it's simple, it's intuitive, you put blocks together and so on. What is challenging here is his memory. He doesn't have a very good memory, and he's trying. You can see that his motivation level is not so low, actually, because he says no matter how hard I try, which means that he does try. But his memory sometimes, fails him. And I totally understand that. I am Igor, actually. I love grammar. It's always been easy to me, but words, oh God, I spent so much time memorizing them because I just have a very, very bad memory. So in the same class, we've got Eva. And Eva says, I got a picture dictionary for my birthday and I know so many words. I don't need lessons at school. I can learn alone. Now, Eva is a good student. She can learn things quickly and she's enthusiastic about it. She's probably also a bit competitive. But her motivation level, she's not very motivated because she thinks she knows it all, which is good. I mean, it's good because she does know a lot already, and we should not discourage her, from learning more. But we somehow, another challenge for us, is just 4 people. In our classes are 20 or 30, right? And you could write 30 stories like that. So without discouraging her from learning, we have to motivate her to want to learn something in the lesson, right? And to be maybe a bit more open about things that the teacher tells her, right? All right, we have 3 more students. There's Nina. And Nina says, I like my teacher and I like learning, but I'm not a very good student and I'm always stressed that everyone's going to laugh at me when I make a mistake. So, is Nina a good student? Well, probably not the best. She might be struggling. She might need just a little bit more support from us. But the biggest problem with Nina is that she's very shy and she's not confident at all. Exactly. Her self-confidence is low and we have to deal with it because that might influence and have a big impact on her motivation. And also, she might give up easily because she's so scared of being judged. And in this class, she's right next to Daniel, who says, I don't like reading and I never understand the text in my book. They're just too long and I can't focus. Why don't we run and play more? Which means that Daniel has got a lot of energy. He needs a lot of movement. He needs a lot of physical activity. And he might have some problems with, concentrating, with focusing for a longer time. His attention span might be a problem here. Now, of course, without detailed diagnosis, we don't know it. It's just a guessing game, but that's what we have as teachers. And I see that, so I might need to incorporate more physical, like TPR activities, but also have to think about it because, this is not, they're not first graders, they're, grade 5, grade 6, so they turn a little bit skeptical, like, I'm not going to play this game. Children, because also their emotions, they're struggling with their emotions and, it's a very difficult period in their life. They're teenagers, they're very, their emotions are very complicated, right? And we have to follow them. We have to respect it and understand it and support them as much as we can. But there's one more student here. And it's Sonia. And Sonia says, I have extra English classes after school and we do much more advanced things. I really like learning on my own. It's difficult for me to work in a group. So you can see that Sonia is a bit similar to Eva, who, doesn't need lessons at all. Sonia sees that she knows more, but she doesn't say that she doesn't like the lessons. She likes learning. I think she understands that she can learn more in classes. That's the difference between her and Eva. But, she is not a group player. She likes to work on her own. Maybe a group distracts her. Maybe she becomes shy. So many motivations here and reasons for that. So you see, here we've got 6 students. Now multiply it by 4 or even 5 and you've got your class. And I guarantee there are like 30 different types. And this is the mixed ability classroom. And also add, the differences in the level of proficiency. And we have a lot to work on and we have a lot of planning to do. But if you think clearly, if you plan ahead, if you focus and think about how to approach it, I guarantee your lessons are going to be much much easier for you. Now, in such situations, I tend to overthink. I go like, yeah, I have to do this, do that, and that. And I like, instead of thinking clearly, I just go in my thoughts and it's a big mess and I just waste my time. So I do like to take a moment to just sit down and think and maybe write some things down and figure out the solutions even before the year starts, because that makes our lives much easier. So if you think about the challenges that teaching mixed ability groups brings, they're represented by 4 pictures. I guess you can maybe guess the meaning. What could be the first challenge that we're facing, apart from the fact that everyone's different? But let's try to sort of, organize it in our heads. What's the first challenge represented by the picture, which is circled, the yellow color? What could that be? The energy. It could be the energy. Fast finishers. And I think fast finishers is the best way to put it, by which I actually mean that the strongest students would work really fast, while the weaker students will need a bit more time to work. They'll be slower, right? So you don't want a situation in your class, especially in online lessons, when you have to, keep your students engaged for the whole lesson. You don't want to have students who finish quickly and then they do nothing, they get bored, they get distracted, or students who never have enough time to finish exercises, which discourages them from further learning, right? Now, what about the second thing? What's that? It's, everything's connected here. But what is represented by this living panda? Laziness. Yes, some students might just get lazy, might get bored. And some students, like the girl, Eva, she might be like, I don't want to be here because I've got my dictionary and I can learn on my own. And, she doesn't really want to be here. And she, like, even if something is interesting, she would sometimes maybe even show that she's so bored because she wants to be in the spotlight, So this is something we have to be very careful with. If the material is too easy, it's not challenging enough for stronger students, they will be bored. And it's not their fault, really, if you think about that, right? Okay, what about this one? What does that show? Fear. Yeah, exactly. Students with no confidence, students who might have the skill, but they're just too shy to say anything. It's just like with when you maybe some of you teach adult people, the biggest problem with adults is that they are so scared of making mistakes, they would rather stay quiet. Now this happens, this starts early, and we also have children who are so scared of making mistakes that they would just keep quiet. Low self-esteem, maybe they find it hard to make friends, maybe they're simply introverted, right? And they just, they're not people, right? All right, so excellent. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the last thing, time management. Now, this is a challenge if you have students who, again, it's all connected, but if you have students who work faster, work slower. So you've got your book and you've got the exercises, and what do I do to make some students work slower and some students work faster? And another problem is that sometimes students work fast because they don't pay enough attention. So they work fast, they finish fast, but they have a lot of mistakes, which is also not what we want to do. So this organization, this time management is also something that we always have to keep in the back of our heads. But I've got some good news, because we keep talking about these difficult things and our lives are so difficult in mixed ability classes, but there are also some advantages of mixed ability classes. So there are also some things that are actually great. And the first thing I believe is great is that mixed ability classes force a lot of student cooperation. Now, student cooperation is also a life skill. Being able to cooperate with other people, and being able to exchange ideas and being able to adjust the way you speak to someone whose English is worse than yours. Imagine that you all speak English very well, and then you go to a country, you travel, you go to a country in which people can communicate in English, but it's not perfect. You wouldn't try to sound like the Queen. You wouldn't try to sound like Shakespeare, because you don't want to show off with your skill. You want to communicate. So this is a very good life lesson, and it takes a skill to be able to adjust your level, right? and to communicate your ideas. Now, another thing is that students can learn from one another. And we're going to talk about the way you can design tasks in which allow you to, get students engaged in the process of learning from their peers and from other students, which is also connected with cooperation, obviously, but it's also teaching them to observe. If they're not sure about the answer, they might listen to their peers, and that's how they figure out, right? If they didn't get it in the first place, right? And also something that I think is actually great, and some people might it might be controversial because some people think it's just more work for me. And I think, well, there's not much we can do about it because it's going to happen anyway. So I kind of changed my attitude into thinking this is a professional challenge. I'm not stuck in one place. I develop my skills as a teacher. There's something interesting going on in my professional life. Finally, it's not like you go to the same class, you open the book and you run the same lesson. So there's something interesting for you. There's something in it for you too. And I think we should definitely treat it as an advantage. Now, here's another thing, because it's 2020, so there is this online factor. So we still don't know. Are we going to be teaching mixed ability classes in face-to-face environment or in the online environment? What's going to happen? And so on and so forth. So those of you who have heard who have participated in the previous session, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's all of these questions that pop up in our head and we're just anxious. But if you think about the most common ways of dealing with mixed ability classes and planning mixed ability lessons, this is what we normally do. And I have done some research and I've checked a lot of blogs about teaching mixed ability classes just to try to sum it up when I was thinking about the online factor in it. So pairing up, yes, we can do it in the online environment. Absolutely. Project work, absolutely. Web quests and working on some materials before the lesson, prior to teaching or after the lesson. Adapting tasks, absolutely. We do it anyway. So can we do it online? Absolutely. It's even easier sometimes, And extending tasks, so adding more. Yes, we can do it online. Can we encourage cooperation and peer questioning? Yes, we can. We do it in face-to-face classes. We do it in online classes. Because it's the same. You just give the name, you just nominate a student and say, okay, so you're going to work with Lena and you will help Lena make these sentences, And this is not everything. There's also clear and specific instructions, absolutely crucial in mixed ability classes. There's no difference in giving them in real life. It is real life, but in giving them in the face-to-face environment and the online environment. They have to be clear, they have to be specific. Nominating students. Yes, it's very important in online classes because you can't point with your finger or you can't just look at the student and go, okay, so off you go. You have to use names. You have to nominate. So yes, we do it anyway in online classes, even if they weren't mixed ability classes. Drilling. Yes, students can repeat after you, and they can do it with their mics on, which creates a bit of a noise, but they can also do it with their mics on mute, and then they repeat, but no one hears them, so the shy students can shine here because they're not going to be heard by anyone, right? So if you think about it, sometimes it's even better, especially for these less confident students in the online setting, right? And also, homeworks have to be well adjusted. We do it anyway, don't we? Right? So this whole online factor, does it exist? Well, yes. Is it different? Well, no, not really. And sometimes it's even easier to teach mixed ability in the online environment via Zoom or Skype or Google Classroom or whichever tools you use. So, to teach a good mixed ability class, I believe there are three factors that have to be taken into consideration. The lessons have to be conducted step by step. So we can't go too fast. We can't just, put it on the table, go like, okay, we're going to work on this, that, right? We have to go step by step because if you do it, we make sure that A, weaker students can follow, B, strong students, they also follow, because you know what happens often, as I said, sometimes they think they're strong, sometimes we even think they're strong, but they make a lot of mistakes. They work really fast, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're stronger, right? The lessons have to be engaging. Of course, all of the lessons have to be engaging. With mixed ability classroom, it's very important because you want everyone to participate. You don't want anyone to be discouraged, which is related to the next point, which is these lessons being equal. And by equal, I mean that both weaker, average, and stronger students get the same amount of your attention, the same amount of your understanding, and the same amount of your support. You cannot adjust your lessons to the strongest students and hope for the weaker students to, catch up. Or the other way around, you cannot design easier, so to speak, lessons and expect the stronger students to be engaged, right? They have to be equal. And it's very easy to do. That's good news, isn't it? If you think about it, it's something that we do anyway. But let me show you some specific ideas that should help you design these lessons, again, both online and in face-to-face context. So I'm going to be using examples from All Clear 5 and All Clear 6. And, because the books are structured in a way that certain activities are similar, because it also, we talked a little bit about creating a habit. It creates this habit, and children, or students, teenagers in this case, they already understand what they have to do so they can focus on the language more. So a book needs to be well structured, right? The content of each unit and level differs, but the structure is more or less the same. So that means that you can adapt these exercises and you can have them with any level of this book, really. It's up to you, because they're built in a similar way. Of course, there will be differences, but basically the principle's more or less the same. So the first thing I do is, before I jump into the water, before I take a plunge, I check if it's deep enough. This is something that we keep hearing, especially in the summer, like don't jump if you don't know the depth of water, right? And by this, I mean, before you start teaching the class, you need to establish the level. You need to check out how students cooperate. You need to see which students are shy, which are not. This is something that will be sort of like needs analysis combined with the level analysis. And that's why I love starter units in books, because I think, years ago, I used to skip them because I was like, yeah, okay, this is just a starter. We're just going to go and, I have my curriculum, I have to stick to it, unit 1. But again, if you think about it, if you start without establishing the needs and without getting to know your students and without refreshing their knowledge after the summer break, which is so long, you might find yourself in trouble. Because also, maybe someone who was a weaker student last year went to a very intense language course in the summer, went to, maybe not this year, didn't go to the UK probably, but went to a language camp in Ukraine, and now he's in love or she's in love with English. And now the student is the best student, and maybe the good student was kind of lazy, like, oh, I don't care. And because they're teenagers, and maybe the student would need more support from you because they have the knowledge, but we have to refresh it. So the starter unit will help you check the level of your students after the summer break. It might change. Will also help you establish the starting point. So, okay, we should be starting with this, or let's say with present simple. And we have already discussed present simple last year, but I don't want to skip it. I want to actually, spend more time on it because I can see that the students don't really remember it. So this is the starting point you're sort of arranging. And also, you can check out how the students work in the online environment. You might have a new student in your class. You might have a new class that you haven't taught before. You might have, teach at the new school. So this is this moment, I don't know, 2, 3, a couple of lessons that allow you to plan your year as, best as you can, right? So let's have a look at specific examples. Vocabulary. This is the first task. And I'm going to be talking about the starter unit, which, as I said, is so important and so helpful. And I'm going to show you examples from both level 5 and 6. When I talk about level 5, you'll see that the stripe on the bottom of the slide is red. When I'll be talking about level 6, I'll show you, it will be blue. Okay, so that's how you can distinguish between them. But of course, you can adjust it to any level of this book. All right, so this is our starter unit. We start with this level 5, we start with the alphabet, and we also have some times, so things that seem quite easy. The alphabet, level 5, I mean, come on, they should know it by heart. Well, yes, but the thing about the alphabet in English is that it tends to be underestimated, and it happens so often that people spell words and names. First of all, we've got names that might be difficult to pronounce to native speakers of English, or like any other language. My full name is Małgorzata, and when I say it out loud, people, go like, what? Because they just come from, I have to spell it. But it also very often happens when you've got words that sound the same. And sometimes when I talk to my friends who are the native speakers of English, sometimes they spell the words they use just to make sure that I understand that they use this word. Or just to make sure that it's not because I'm not a native speaker, it's just because that's how people speak. So it's absolutely crucial. So, how to turn this activity into something engaging and something that is valuable for a mixed ability class. So that's how I do it. I start with myself and I say IGOR. How are you? So my students, they have to listen carefully if I'm spelling their name. And then if someone recognizes their name, so in this case, that would be Igor, he has to react. He has to say, I'm fine, thank you. And then he has to spell the name of another student and ask another question. It can be the same question, it can be a different question. So, I'm fine, thank you, Anya, how are you? And Anya says, I'm fine, thank you, Felix, how are you? Now, look what Felix says. Felix is a good student. He says, remember the great Felix. He says, I'm having a great day. EVA, where did you go on holiday? Right? Now, Eva is not such a strong student, but it's okay because she can reply with just one word, Kiev. That's it, right? She can add something. My nephew is there because she knows a lot of words, right? She's not very enthusiastic, but she knows vocab. She knows the word nephew. She remembers it, and so on and so forth. And in this way, you can keep the whole class engaged. It's such a simple activity, just spelling, but it shows you a lot of things that are absolutely crucial to you. So first of all, you get all the students, they all get the chance to practice spelling. And it's personal because they're spelling their own names, but it's not something they're used to because they're not spelling their own name, right? So spelling at its best. Now, speaking about mixed ability, which is our, main focus today. If you have weaker students here, they can give very short answers and they can give very short questions. They can repeat your question. They can repeat the previous question. So they are not, they're not expected to say, I don't know what. They can just say, I'm fine, thank you, how are you? And that's okay. Because the focus, the target language here, or the target skill is spelling. It's not really questions, right? So they feel safer. And when it comes to stronger students, this is the moment for them to show off with their knowledge. And we've got Eva who knows the word nephew, so she's going to use it, right? So this is something that the moment in which they can sort of adjust the level of the language they use in the lesson to their level, like they can choose, right? You can also encourage them to do so. Like sometimes you have to tell them, like, say as much as you want. Students do get a lot of visual support because in exercise 2, they do have all the letters. So they can, like when they hear the letters being spelled, they can search for them. And also when they spell the letters, it's easier for them if they can see them than from, off the top of your head. It's like, long names might be difficult to spell. So there is this visual support for weaker students. And also, weaker students get a chance to pick their classmate whose names are easy to spell, right? So if you want to have full control over it, you would say who talks to whom, right? But you can also give them some freedom. It depends on your class and it depends on which decision you believe is best for your context. But you know, they can sort of be clever, right? And instead of choosing Nathaniel, they can choose Eva, right? And you can also encourage stronger students to choose longer names, right? And so on. So that's why I love this task so much. But there is also another task in the starter part. The second, you see, the task that follows, it's about times. And as you can see, the clocks here, they all come with different colors, right? Which makes it easy for us because we can use them. Now, our students already know colors very well. So if you have a look at these two students, the girl, she's a weaker student. The boy, he's a bit stronger. So the first round we're going to have here, of course, you don't tell the students that they're weaker or stronger, but you just nominate them in a clever way. And you say, okay, Eva, you say the color. Felix, you say what time it is. So Eva says green, Felix says 3:15. And, you can either put students in pairs here, or you can just have, nominate different students. Okay, the next step here is this time the stronger student says the time and the weaker student says the color. So it's the other way around. So Felix says 12:30 and Eva has to find and says, oh, it's red. All right. So yes, they do learn together. And the stronger student has a bit of a more difficult task. But look, it's the second round here. And then you say, then there's the third round. And in the third round, because the students have already heard all the times, we can challenge the weaker students and give the stronger students some rest. So now the stronger student says the color and the weaker student has to say the time. Now the weaker student has heard this time twice already, apart from the fact that there is some background knowledge to it. So look how much support the student gets while all of them are still engaged. And if you want to make it more energetic, you can mingle students. You can, if you use Zoom, you can send them to different breakout rooms, right? You can put them in different pairs. It depends on the size of the group. But if you look at it, all the students get the chance to tell the time, all of them. It's just that the weaker students say it at the end, but they don't know. Students don't think about the way you design the lesson. They just do what you ask them to do, right? So no one feels shy here and no one feels, anyhow criticized. Also, weaker students get the chance to listen to the times beforehand and learn from their peers, right? So no one's scared here, but there's also a lot of, this learning from other students. And stronger students get a more challenging task. They start, with telling the time, not with colors. Right. So in there are 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds, the strong students tell the time. The third round, the weak students get the chance to do it. Right. So this activity, these 2 activities, are they step by step? Yes. You see, step by step, slowly we challenge them more and more so everyone can follow. Are they engaging? Yes, because there is no moment a student can get distracted. With spelling, you never know when your name's going to be spelled out. With times, they work in pairs, so they have to stay focused, right? And is it equal? Yes, because everyone gets what they need. Stronger students, more challenge. Weaker students, more guidance. Yeah, right? So if you have a look at similar task in the higher level. Look at exercise number 8. There's a picture of a family and there are sentences that need to be finished. So my mom's sister is my dad's daughter is my uncle is my grandmother's, right? So you can also do the same thing with this exercise. So here's the dialogue we're going to have. So the girl who's a weaker, let's call her Eva. Okay, so Eva, the weaker student, she points to the picture. Now, how does she point to the picture in an online setting? She just says, white t-shirt, right? Or she can say the girl, and then you use your tools to, for example, circle a person, okay? And then the stronger student says, it's my mom's sister. And the weaker student, so they have to reply with the long form from exercise 8, my mom's sister. And then the weaker student says, your aunt. So what happens here is because the weaker students is the first person to show, like, they take turn, but they show the person. They can choose where it's going to be grandpa, because I know how to say grandma, so I'm going to choose the elderly lady, or whether it's a daughter, because I know the word daughter, and I'm like, they choose who they point to, right? And they challenge the stronger students. So then we have the next round. You see, exactly the same thing. It's my dad's daughter, your sister. She pointed to the girl, and we know that it's, going to be a daughter or sister, or like a small girl, a cousin maybe, right? So the choice is limited here, right? Which makes it easier. And then there is another task that we can apply here. So exercise 7 that you can see here, we play with categories, and we have to divide the names, the words, into male and female. Okay, so the brother or the grandpa would be male, and sister and grandma female, and also a cousin can be both male and female. So we're going to recycle a structure that weaker students already know, which is telling the age. She is 79 years old. So, first of all, the student has the chance to choose the gender, whether it's he or she. Then the student narrows down the possible answers, because I don't think my daughter can be 79 years old. Maybe my sister, but I would have to be an elderly lady. Okay, so you can see, so the weaker student makes a choice here, and then the stronger student gets the chance to practice the names of family members, because if you look at the previous stage, it was the weaker student who practiced it. Now I want the stronger students to also practice it, because they might know the words, they might not pronounce it correctly. Well, I want to check it, right? Especially after the holiday break. And then another example, he is 11 years old. The answers might be different, but the thing is that here the person challenges the stronger student. Maybe it's my nephew, maybe it's my cousin. And then the weaker student only repeats, it's your cousin, right? Or it doesn't even have to. You see, so the rules have changed, but the difficulty level stayed more or less the same. The stronger students are still challenged, the weaker students are getting more support. That's what we want, isn't it? So to sum up this activity, all the students get a chance to name the family members, right? Weaker students get a chance to challenge their peers. Now, this is also important, because it's not only the stronger students challenging the weaker students, it can also work the other way around, which builds up the confidence of weaker students. And also, the weaker students get a chance to recycle and practice some lower level structures, but it's always good to recycle. Like, she is 79 years old, or he is wearing a blue t-shirt. This is depending on what you decide to do there. So you see, it's again the same type of an activity, a dialogue between two students. And just like in level 5, this activity in level 6 is also done step by step, right? And then we switch roles. It's engaging to everyone, because stronger students are, they have to stay engaged, because it's a dialogue. They cannot get distracted, and they won't in a dialogue. And it's also equal, because everyone gets what they need. Stronger students get challenges. Weaker students get more support. But if at some point you observe that the weaker students are actually doing great, you can challenge them. So you can switch the roles again. And you see, it's so easy to adjust the level of difficulty in mixed ability classroom. You just observe what's going on. That's what you do, because you've got everything planned, everything is under control. And then you just say, oh, actually, you're doing fine. Let's switch roles and switch pairs if you want to, because you can do it too. Now, let's move on to the next task. So we talked about vocabulary and spelling. Let's talk a little bit about grammar. And this time, again, starter, unit 5 and 6. And this is what it looks like. So we've got demonstrative pronouns, and we've got this, that, these, those. So quite a lot of things. These words sound similar. This, that, these, those, especially this, these, you know. The sounds, the differences between sounds are so small, and I think it's the same in your language, because it's also Slavic language, but in Polish we don't really have these long and short vowels. We only have vowels, you know. So to my students, it's a challenge to distinguish between E and I, right? Because to them it's just E, right? So this is something that we struggle with. So what I do here is I assign certain gestures to certain words. So we're going to have a lot of divisions, so I need you to stay focused here, okay? If I talk about one thing, right, I use one finger. So if I say that or this, I show one finger. Now, if I talk about more than one thing, I show two fingers. So if I say these or those, I show two fingers. Okay? This, these, that, those. All right? Tricky, but it's okay. We have to stay focused, right? Okay. So we practice this a little bit, depending on how quickly my students catch it, but there might be a lot of drilling here, there might be a little bit of drilling here, but I would just say this, that, these, and they have to show one finger or two. Okay, now, if I talk about something that is close to me, so this and these, we have to sit. But if I say that or those, we stand up. Okay? So if I say those, I stand up. My students stand up, right? If I say that, it's far away, I stand up. You can tell your students that you stand up because when something is far away, you have to stand up to get there, right? So you can sort of create these associations in their heads. And here comes the challenge. So we're going to combine these things together. So when I say this book, you have to combine talking about singular or plural objects that are close or far away. So when I say this book, was it one or two fingers? Do you remember? One finger. So I have to lift one finger. Is it close or is it far away? This book, it's close. So I'm sitting. So what you do here is you lift one finger and you sit. Now, if I say these are pens, right? What do I have to do? These, so it's two. It's more than one, so two fingers. And is it close or is it far away? These, close. Okay, so I have to sit. So I just have to sit like that, right? Yeah, two sit. Good. You see, you're getting it very quickly, right? But you see, there's a lot of thinking here, like, oh, what was what? But it's also intuitive. One, two, far away and close, right? Okay, so in this case, we sit and we show two fingers. One more. Those are students. So those, it's going to be two fingers. But it's also far away, so we have to stand up to get there, right? So two fingers, but standing up, all right? And look, there's so much fun here. There's a bit of TPR. Everyone is engaged. And here, there's a lot of language practice, but there is also added value to it and added challenge to it, because you can know these words very well, but it takes some time to sort of coordinate your movement and your hands and what you see. So this is a moment when stronger students will be challenged too, and weaker students will get a chance to create these links in their heads, right? So hopefully they should do better. Look, a very simple activity, grammar, right? Online. But you engage students who need more movement and TPR, right? There was one student who doesn't like to sit and read, they like to run. You get weaker students a chance to practice more before exercise 2, in which they already need to have dialogues. So they are well prepared to that. Stronger students, again, drill the structure because they might know it, but here there is a lot of pronunciation also. The trick is in pronunciation very often, because they might know how to write this and these, but, you know, these, you know, so they get a chance to practice it. and while being engaged. And in exercise 2, which is in pairs point to objects or people in the classroom. So in my room, I'll, take some objects and, I don't know, show them, right? So the students are free to choose the objects they want to talk about. Weaker students can choose objects that they know very well. My phone, right? A glass. Stronger students get a chance to use more advanced vocabulary, right? My armchair, no, maybe it's not too advanced, or my, I don't know, violin, whatever they have, right? So they have some freedom to choose. And if you have a look at level 6, so you go one step higher, an exercise that looks like a different one, but actually is the same. I mean, you can do the same thing here for mixed ability classes. So here the students have to choose between have got and has got. And it's enough if you just say, if it's has got, you show one finger. If it's have got, it means there's more than one person, or it's me, you show 2 fingers. Okay? So, I have got, she has got, we have got, they have got, he has got, it has got, and so on. Okay, so you just, or you basically assign, like, it doesn't have to be with fingers. You can do something else, clap your hands. But I think, like, to my experience, this works because it's also, visual. So this time, the students, like when you do the exercise and you show it with fingers, you can add the extension. Weaker students say the name or some names of objects, and stronger students have to decide if it goes with have got or has got, right? So the weaker student can say a glass, has got. Books, have got. So weaker students are free to choose the words they know. Stronger students are challenged, right? There is another extension you can have here, because why not? Weaker students show 1 or 2 fingers. So let's say I'm a weaker student. I show 2 fingers, in which 1 means singular, 2 means plural. So when I show 2 fingers, it means that the stronger student has to give me the word in plural. All right? Because I am, I'm ruling here. So I show 2, the other student says books, and then I say, as a weaker student, I say have got or has got. So the thing is that here you go step by step. So you can say the books have got many pages, right? Or you can you can talk about people. You can just narrow it down to make it so you don't have these sentences like spoons have got. Okay, if you want to keep it more natural, you can just ask them to talk about people or animals, or something like that. You can narrow it down. And in this case, apart from all the things that happened in the same exercise in level 5, there is something else here. Weaker students, especially in the second extension, when there's, showing fingers, saying a noun, saying a sentence, weaker students are prepared because they show with their fingers if it's going to be have got or has got. So they have a chance to plan. They're not going to be surprised. Therefore, they shouldn't make mistakes. The only thing they do is they use the noun given by the stronger students, and they already have ready-made correct patterns that they just follow. What else do you want? I want nothing more, really. I want nothing more. Maybe just teaching face-to-face would be a nice addition. But apart from that, everyone's engaged. The activity is done step by step. You can adjust the level of difficulty by, based on what you observe. It's engaging. Everyone's engaged. And it can also be challenging to stronger students with the coordination. And everyone is equal. Everyone gets what they need. The stronger students get more challenges. The weaker students get a lot of support, a lot of guidance, step by step, a lot of chances to, understand how the structure works, to drill it, right? Mixed ability online, and it works. So let's move on. This is not the end. We'll still have some time left. So the next task I'd like to show you is speaking and listening. And I'm also going to use the starter unit for that. Speaking and listening. So this is the task. All right. Let's start with, it is a speaking task, but there is a listening part here. It's not a, listening task per se, but we will be listening to the audio file. So there's a dialogue, and then you're going to be answering questions, preparing short dialogues. And we start with listening to the dialogue to model the language. Now, as weaker students, follow the text and listen to the dialogue. How can you challenge stronger students here? Because maybe the dialogue is they understand everything in it, and we don't want them to get bored. So while the students who want to, or students that you nominate, just listen and follow the text, I encourage leaving some space for students here and letting them choose, because if you keep saying like you listen and do something extra, that might be a bit discouraging. So whoever wants, they just listen to the text and follow it with their finger or pen or whatever. But what stronger students can do here is they can also read out loud as they listen. Because they can read quickly, they're good at reading, they can try reading with the recording, see if it's similar, if the pace is the same, if the intonation is the same. And speaking about intonation, they can listen to it and draw intonation patterns, right? So, for example, can you repeat that, please? Can you repeat that, please? Just draw the line, and when the sounds are higher, when the tone is higher, they just go up, right? So you can, just show them how to do it, spend 5 minutes on that. It can be very useful in the future. So from stage 1, our students are all engaged. And this is a similar thing in level 6. Do you think in level 6 we could do the same things? Do you think the dialogues will be adjusted to that? So that one student can listen, follow the text, the other student can read out loud, draw the intonation line? Yeah, absolutely. You can do it with any level. You can do it with any listening task, really. Any dialogue, any listening. Yeah, with dialogues, because you need to have the text written also, right? So you can do it. You can do it with level 7, whichever level you teach. All right. Now let's get back to our original dialogue. So there are 2 students here, Mia and Harry, and each student has got their role. Which role do you think is more suitable for weaker students, Mia or Harry? Who's the weaker student here? You might have different opinions here. Oh, so you see, some of you say Mia, some of you say Harry. I do believe that actually Mia is the weakest student here, because I know where it comes from, because you might think she's a stronger student because the sentences are longer. But if you think about the things that can be exchanged here for other words, actually Harry has got more to do, because Mia, she starts with giving the word linijka. Harry has to understand this word in his language and then translate it into English, so there's translating. And then Harry has to spell the word in English without seeing it this time. So let's assume that Harry is the strongest student, and Mia, as you say, she uses a classroom language. These questions can be drilled. There's not much going on. The only thing she changes is a word in her native language. And this is exactly what I like to play with, because I do like using native language in such situations. Why not? I don't think it's a disadvantage. I'm not talking about explaining the rules of grammar, let's say, but translating sometimes single words, why not? Because that's what we do in real life. So I hope I hadn't made any mistakes, because I used the dictionary, so I hope these words are correct. If not, I'm terribly sorry. First, you elicit a list of things that can be found, are related to classroom objects. So you got ruczka, zoszyt, pienal, I'm very sorry, I'm trying, okay? Nożyci, and you've got still, and you've got pismowy still, right? So a desk. So this is easy because it's in your student's native language. And then when you already have a list of these words, you can write them on Zoom. Then you have the dialogue. And then the weaker student practices the classroom language, and the only thing she or he does is exchange these words in their native language, and they challenge the stronger student. And you can do the same with level 6. Look, in level 6, there is an activity in which you've got a lot of family members. right? So you can just ask your students to translate them into Ukrainian, and then have the same dialogue in, just using family members, and challenge students in the same way, right? You can do whatever you want here. This activity can be done with literally every noun set that you've got, right? But let's get back to our original activity to show you what to do next, because this is not the end. So we have already challenged the strongest student. We want to challenge them a little bit more. We also want to challenge the weakest student. So what I do is I either use my online tools, like, just have a fragment of the online version of the book and then just, blur it, or I write it on a slide, and they have to recreate the dialogue, seeing what I've written. How do you spell ruchka in English? It's pen, ta-da-ta-ta-ta, right? So it's a little bit more difficult, but it's not the first time they read it, so it's not bad. And then the next step, that's what I do. How do you spell ruchka in English? It's pen. Can you repeat that, please? Yes, it's pen. How do you spell that? P-E-N. So you see, so you challenge them even more as the third time they say the dialogue, but the outcome you want is them having these dialogues in real life. So you have to make it more and more difficult for them, because everyone can read, not everyone can conduct a conversation. And then there are two variations, because if you hold online lessons, you can, and you want to control your students. If you work in Zoom, you send out to the breakout rooms. You ask them to have these dialogues in the chat window where they write, so you can check it. And they write it like that. And also, if you have so then you can go to these breakout rooms and you can check it. And then in speaking, you can, if you have a look at the useful language part, you can sort of make a reverse speaking activity. So the weaker student would just read the answers in whichever order they want. The stronger student will have to match it with the question and say the question. So the weaker student says N-O-T-E-B-O-O-K. The stronger students has to look at the questions and decide which question this thing answers and find the question. Backwards spelling, not spelling, backwards speaking, right? And if you have a look at the stronger, the higher level, here you can do the same thing. There are also things that can be changed. For example, names or cities or age, or you see also, apart from that, you can also change the things, the hobbies. So we've got athletics, we've got art. So weaker students can use the book to look at the words they can use. Stronger students can use the words which are not in the book, so they can be more challenged, right? And you can have a very similar dialogue. How old are you? I'm 14, right? Or W-Y-N, what's your name? You see, there's so much you can do with a simple dialogue. And in speaking, you can simply, to challenge weaker students more, you can ask them to change the names. In any place they can. So instead of saying Liverpool, they might say Paris or Hamburg or whichever city they choose, right? And thanks to that activity, stronger students get the extra challenge because they have to draw intonation patterns while listening, and they also get more difficult tasks. Weaker students are constantly exposed to target language. Stronger students get a chance to practice more vocab because they can come up with more words, right? And when you were coming up with the words in Ukrainian, the weaker student would challenge the stronger student, which means that sometimes stronger students would not know how to say something in English. So the weaker students can see that sometimes the stronger students don't know the answers, and it's fine. Everyone, has to learn, and it's also sort of like a good lesson, right? That I'm not the only one who doesn't know how to answer a question, and so on. And also, weaker students can learn from their peers, which makes it very, there's a lot of cooperation, step-by-step engaging, equal everything at once, which means that it really works for mixed ability classes in mixed reality, right? And there is one more task I'd like to show you. We don't have much time, so I'll try to speed up a little bit, but I do want to show you how to approach reading tasks, because I believe it's very important. So just give me 2-3 minutes to walk you through it. So if you use a good book, for every reading task, there should be, every text that your students have to read, there should be at least 2 exercises or 3. So here you can see you've got the text and you've got exercise 1, 2, and 3. And if you have a closer look at them, there are 3 types of exercise. First, gist. So the general, the exercise checking the understanding of the general meaning of the text. Then you have sort of like closed questions, like true, false, multiple choice, in which you might be able to put categories or something like that. And finally, you've got open questions. Okay, so that's what tells me that the book is good, because there are 3 levels of difficulty here already in the book. So I don't have to do much more. So you put them in order of difficulty, which is just in order they appear normally. And now when your students read the text, you've got 2 approaches to challenge them or to give them more support. And the first one would be each student gets 1 task only. So they read the whole text, but the weakest students only do task 1. So say student A, B, and C, you do task 1. The average students might do task 2, just task 2. And the strongest students get task 3. And in this sense, okay, well, the strongest students are going to read faster, but they have more things to do in the last part. So you see, I don't have to do anything because the book has done it for me, right? And there's also another approach here in which each student gets only 1 fragment of the text, because it can, as you can see, is divided into parts, but they have to do all the tasks. So they are challenged because the tasks are more difficult, but they only work on a very short fragment of the text. So, they don't spend much time reading. And then it involves exchanging information, because then when you want to talk about the text, they have to, you can pair them up and or like put them in groups and ask them to exchange what they've learned. And in this case, it may happen that because every student gets the same amount of work, it might happen that you'll have fast finishers. So what do you do with them? You either, because the text is about responses to a question posted on a forum, write your own response in 2 sentences. Or find 3 adjectives and replace them with their synonyms. If possible, check if there are 3 adjectives. Or another thing you can do, for each response, write 1 extra question you would like to ask the author, something more you'd like to find out about it, right? And in this way, and I haven't done anything here, it's just a book. I haven't designed any tasks here. In this way, stronger students get extra challenges, synonyms, questions, all the most difficult exercise. Fast finishers are kept busy, so everyone has got enough time to finish reading. And also, the task can be easily adjusted. You see how strong your group are, and then you choose which approach works better for your students. And finally, students get a chance to cooperate in the online environment because they have to exchange information, just like they were making dialogues, right? So reading, something that students are sometimes scared of, can also be done step by step in a very engaging and in a very equal way. Everyone gets as much attention, as much support, as much guidance as they need. So I encourage you to do it. I also encourage you to switch roles with your students in mixed ability classrooms. So make your students prepare the lessons, which would give them a chance to cooperate with their peers, understand the topic deeply, a chance for weak students to shine because they will prepare their own lessons, so they will be in the spotlight. It will teach your students to pay attention to all the details of the book, such as all clear rules, for example, or, like all the grammar parts of the book. And there are so many things they can create. Poster, video, presentation, quizzes, poems, whatever you want. And you've got so many materials because at the end of the book, you've got these cultural projects. Ask your students to do it. That's also one way of dealing with a mixed ability classroom. So what I want you to remember is that when you plan mixed ability lessons for mixed ability classes, don't aim in the mid, like, the very middle, in the sense that don't aim to like at the strongest students, but also don't don't design your lessons according to the needs of your weakest students. Just stay in the middle, stay between, make them average, and make more challenges for stronger students, give more guidance to weaker students. And remember for your lessons to be done step by step, to be engaging, I'm sure they are, and to give the equal amount of time and your time and your support to every student. And thanks to that, hopefully we're going to have really good lessons in which the mixed ability is just the added value. And the fact that there are students with different needs and different skills would just make it better. We'll challenge ourselves, we'll challenge our students, we'll give them support, and teach them some English, right? So thank you very much. I have prolonged my speech a bit. So over to you, Ina. I'm very sorry for stealing a bit of your time.
No problem, Gosha. Thank you really very much. As always, all your ideas are professional, creative, and practical. You
Thank
take
you
it
very
and
much.
you do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And
Шановні колеги, буквально кілька ще хвилин вашої уваги. І я розповім вам, що отримують учасники нашої сьогоднішньої зустрічі. Отже, нагадую, що цей майстер-клас був на основі курсу для України All Clear for Ukraine для 5, 6, 7 класу. Цей підручник має гриф міністерства, він є в переліку рекомендованої літератури, до нього є календарно-тематичне планування. Він складається для учня підручник і робочий зошит. В підручнику є код, за яким учні можуть завантажити аудіо до робочого зошиту, бо аудіофайлів в цьому, взагалі аудіозапису в цьому курсі дуже багато, майже 80% всіх прав мають озвучку. І також вони отримують доступ до онлайн-практики на кшталт того, що я показувала у Academy Stars, де учні можуть практикувати лексичні граматичні вправи, система автоматично все перевіряє, а вчитель отримує вже готовий результат. І також у учнів є доступ до онлайн-словника, де також є лексичні ігри. У вчителя є книга для вчителя, в якій дуже детальні поурочні плани, ідеї для Teaching Mixed Abilities, і також є код, за яким вчитель може або завантажити, або працювати онлайн з цифровою інтерактивною версією підручника, робочого зошита, і також у вчителя є доступ до учнівських ресурсів. Так виглядає книга для вчителя зсередини. Ви бачите ліворуч сторінка підручника, праворуч детальний план конспекту уроку, включно з порадами, як працювати у різнорівневому класі з певними вправами. Цифровий ресурс вчителя виглядає таким чином: інтерактивний підручник, матеріали учня, тести і вчительські ресурси, які також вартують вашої уваги, бо ресурсний центр вчителя містить готових 240 розроблених завдань, повноцінних уроків, якими ви спокійно можете доповнювати ваші уроки за необхідності. Знову таки, вам нічого не треба готувати додатково, воно у вас вже все є. І тести є готові у 3 варіантах складнощі. Це Standard, тобто для всіх учнів, Basic для слабких учнів і Extra для сильних учнів. Так виглядає інтерактивна версія підручника. Ви бачите, тут є інструменти, і хайлайтери, і можна замалювати, можна обвести. Дуже корисна справа. Крім того, у вчителя є ще один цифровий ресурс, який має назву Culture Watch. Це відео в 2 варіантах: документальні відео і скетчі. До кожного відео є розроблені уроки, і ці уроки розроблені також, як ви бачите, в двох рівнях складності – стандартний та більш високий рівень складності. Це цифрові ресурсні учні, про які я казала, візуально активований код до онлайн-практики виглядає таким чином. Працює знов-таки не тільки на комп'ютері, а й на планшеті, і на смартфоні, айфоні, айпеді. Так виглядає автоматична перевірка, тобто ви бачите, що принцип подібний до того, що було в Academy Stars. Я хочу нагадати, що ми, команда Macmillan, щиро дякую за ваші теплі слова всій команді, озвучую її, щиро дякую команді Macmillan, як завжди, на крок попереду. Ми пропонуємо комплексне рішення для вас і для ваших учнів. У нас є все готово, все є. Все, що потрібно, це просто зробити вибір на користь підручників нашого видавництва. Нагадую, що існує діагностичне тестування на початок навчального року для всіх підручників, зокрема і до All Clear. І є ресурси для дистанційного навчання на нашому сайті. І тепер, що отримує кожен учасник дня першого конференції? Ну, по-перше, сертифікат учасника з вказаною кількістю годин. По-друге, звичайно, посилання на відеозапис вебінару, бо ідей маса, ідеї всі дуже корисні. І варто переглянути цей вебінар ще і ще раз. А ще кожен учасник сьогоднішнього дня конференції отримує матеріали для легкого початку навчального року. Ви отримаєте стартер юніт до Academy Stars рівня 2 у вигляді Flipping Book. Тобто немає значення, чи вийдете ви і сядете за парти, чи будете працювати дистанційно. Матеріал, з чим розпочати навчальний рік і чим заповнити прогалини, у вас вже буде. І також кожен учасник отримує Flipping Book Starter Unit до All Clear 5. Наберіться трошечки терпіння. Всі ці матеріали надійдуть до кінця наступного тижня, тобто це не відбудеться сьогодні або завтра. І ми чекаємо вас завтра на другий день нашої онлайн-конференції, де буде не менше цікавинок, не менше корисних ідей і порад. У нас буде дві великі сесії і невеличкий такий вам тізер, буде дещо про онлайн-асесмент. Тож, чекаємо на вас завтра на тому же місці і в той же час. До зустрічі, гарного вам початку навчального року.